Hi, hello, everybody. Here we are.
We're live.
This is live. This is Worcestery Council Theater 3000. I'm Bryan O'Donnell. This is Bill Shaner. Hey, Bill.
Hello.
How you doing?
Not bad. Not bad.
We should have,
Settling in for a real doozy.
yeah, this should be a good one. We're gonna pull up the Worcester City Council meeting here. They're currently, oh, cool. They're full on singing the national anthem. I don't know if we have the rights to that. I'm gonna mute that.
They do that in the Pledge of Allegiance every time when you're sitting there. It's the most annoying thing in the world. It's
I wish I had a flag down here in my office. I would stand up and salute it.
Yeah,
well.
I know.
I would turn it upside down because we're in distress.
I would straight up just sit there when I had to sit over there and just wouldn't stand up for it.
Yeah.
No one ever noticed. It was fine.
I'm sure they. Yeah, I used to in high school. I used to not stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and people would get really mad at me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
They just hate it.
You know, what can I say? I hate America. It's gotta people to know.
What's to like? What's to like?
Yeah, is this a relatively new thing, or have they always done this?
Always done that. Pledge of Allegiance and Star Spangled Banner to start every meeting.
I've never been early to a city council meeting, so I've never seen this part before.
It makes a too long process a million times longer than it already should be. It's just like just cut to the chase, guys.
Anything big on the agenda tonight, Bill?
Nothing that super stands out, but a couple things that there might be some drama on. Early in the meeting, we're going to get into this reconsideration of a vote to name some street Frank Santa Way, and it seems like there's some weird backstory to that. So I don't know. I don't know. It seems like Candy Merrill Carlson and Christian King are going to be at odds on this one for some reason. I don't know. We'll see.
Hell yeah, that's always my favorite.
Yeah. Candy Merrill Carlson is the worst.
Okay, good. Begin the meeting tonight. We have a number of people in the audience who came to support our champions here in the city of Worcester. Well, you learn that we have a lot of martial arts champions right here in the city of Worcester, trained right here, I think on Worcestery, if I remember right.
Martial art champions.
And so we have a couple of keys you want to give out to these people who are champions.
I thought they should do a demonstration.
National champion. And the
if they
trainer, who also is a champion, but
they give out keys to the city to anybody.
Who came in from Brazil in
except me.
Yeah, no, I've never got one either.
Came from nothing.
I've been lobbying for one.
Dream here in the city of Worcester.
Hey,
trained over 200 something fighters, and 200 something.
I've been really seriously lobbying for a key to the city, and
from anywhere from
they won't give me one. I think possibly because I've made multiple posts about how Joe Petty looks like a potato head, but
he does.
And they also have
he especially looks like a potato head when he's leaving the sole proprietor.
The team, and I think a lot of the people here right here in the audience today, or I have family that does.
It's fine. I'm not going to judge a guy for that. He's a fun hang.
He is a fun hang.
Champion too, who's
sorry, I had an itch.
Oh my God,
Mike Trainer.
All right,
Mike,
that was over there.
To you.
Yeah, Travis got one. He got one for martial arts.
Where'd you get that key to the city? The toilet store?
You can make them. You can order them online. It's really not hard.
That's what I do. In fantasy football, every year we give out a key to the city for the winner. That's a very good point. Florida is made up of all people from towns in Massachusetts, so it doesn't totally surprise me.
Yeah.
We're very similar to Florida.
Muay Thai and a number of different
Oh, wait. People can comment.
So first up,
I'm just figuring this out.
Every race, we get a key to the city for you if you want to come up.
Yeah, we'll pop them up on screen if they're
then we have
feel especially vital. Metallica Street, though?
Oh, Metallica Street? Let's see. We got some. No, it's Frank Santa. Metallica Street would be fucking sick.
Nice. Do a judo throw on him right now.
Oh, just judo chop the mayor. Let's go.
Oh, they're all gonna get in there. There's not a camera angle. Unless they're shooting it from this camera.
And the funny thing here is there's no one even taking a picture.
Oh, there's one at bottom right corner.
Oh, there is.
There's somebody taking a picture. It's not framed. Not everyone is in that photo.
Horrible angle. Is that Tony Economou over there? I miss that guy. He was real straightforward about how little he cared. Something you gotta appreciate.
I really like that. Say what you want, but
and
nice
you
to
get
know what you're up against.
I know
he was just like,
but there's a lot of championship belts that's sitting outside the chamber. There's got to be like 7 or 8 of them. The belts that you see the heavyweight champion in boxing wear. So you make Worcester proud, everyone. Thank you very much for coming out tonight.
I might get one of those belts. I got to run down there right now.
I gotta post about this on my stories.
We're gonna move on.
We're live, watching the most boring shit in the world.
Councilor Rose,
I would love a St. Anger street.
I can hear you fine. Can you hear
street
me?
anger?
We can.
Would be so great.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, perfect. Okay. First item is that the City Council approves the minutes of the City Council meeting of September 22nd, 2021. Roll call. All those. Is everybody? Oh, we got to do a roll call. Roll call.
Councilor Bergman?
Yes.
Councilor Calorio?
Yes.
Councilor King?
Yes.
Councilor Carlson?
Yes.
Councilor Vera?
Yes.
Councilor Rose?
Yes.
Councilor Rosen?
Yes.
Councilor Russell?
Yes.
Councilor Toomey?
Yes.
Councilor Wally?
Yes.
And Mayor
Yes.
Petty?
Yes. Okay, next
Yes.
we have
I'm Matt Wally.
public participation. A person may speak for no more than 2 minutes.
I'm Mitt Wally. I have 24 hours to live, and I need to get this done.
Okay, anybody in the
I
audience
recuse
who wants to
myself.
speak on any item appearing on the agenda,
Oil,
you have 2
please,
minutes.
oil.
Your name and city of residence, and the item number.
All right. Well, I'm
My name is Corey Bisbee. I
hoping
live at 75 Trinity Ave in Ward 3.
we'll
Some
get
of
some
my
Corey
interesting
background
Bisbee.
is in the
comments.
comparative study
That's
and
always
design
the
of
best.
electoral systems, and I'd like to comment on reforms to the system for electing the school committee. I believe that the 3 potential options that have been publicized so far are flawed, the latter 2 so-called hybrid options especially because of their inclusion of at-large plurality seats. While technically still within the bounds of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, the 1 to 2 at-large plurality seats in these options go against the spirit of the Act, as they would ultimately dilute minority voting representation and impact protected voters' ability to participate equally in elections.
They're
This
just gonna
becomes
ignore
clear
the
when one
shit out
looks
of
at
this
what
guy.
kind of candidates have consistently placed first and second.
He's
in
too
successive
smart.
Elections under the current system of all at-large plurality.
The mayor's going to say, this
While
is
the
how you
effects
get
of these 2
change
options
done.
are
And then
reasonable,
he's
Yeah,
never going to think
right.
about it
I
ever
believe the
again.
first option of
Nope.
an entirely
Nope.
district-based system could be improved, and also that another system not currently presented should be strongly considered as an alternative to the hybrid options. One issue with the first option of an entirely district-based system as currently conceived is that with 6 districts, it will require the drawing of new districts which will not align in any meaningful way with the existing 5 council districts. This will create needless additional complexity for voters, and I believe that an improved version of this option would instead consist of 1 member elected by each of the city's 10 wards and chaired by the mayor. This is a system which is currently used in other cities in the state, including Brockton, and for simplicity,
Yeah,
it can be called the Brockton model. The second
only
electoral
Twitch-
system that I believe
the
the
only
city should offer to
Amazon
replace the
platforms I
hybrid
use are
options
Twitch
is
and
a system in which
IMDb.
all members of the school
Because
committee
it's
Yeah.
very
will be
important to me
elected
to
citywide,
know who's
but
in
the
ready to rumble.
representation voting, specifically
At a
is
moment's
a
notice.
proportional system that is not
Yeah.
one take all in the way that at-large plurality and district-based plurality systems.
Yeah, is there any way to get the
are.
comments
This
up on the
system
screen?
was once used by 6 cities in Massachusetts.
So if
It's been used
you
in some municipal elections in the state
on
for 80
the
years
are on
now,
the
including
StreamYard
for the present
page,
day.
there's
Yeah.
a tab on the right
Previously used in
side
Worcester,
that
and
says
for
comments at the
simplicity, it can be
top.
called
If
the
you click
Worcester
on
model.
those,
Oh,
you
yeah,
you'll
The
be,
right.
should
Worcester
be able to see
model
them.
is the most representative and fair system. It was first adopted as part of the municipal reform movement and was repealed because it empowered voters, weakened the influence of party machines and muddied interests, and led to the election of some of the first Black municipal elected officials in the cities that adopted it. The Brockton and Worcester models are fair and well established in the state, and the city would do well to consider these 2 options exclusively. Thank you.
I agree. We should be more like Brockton.
Anybody else in the audience want to speak?
In so many ways, more
Your
fights.
name,
Yeah,
President,
it's the
item
city of
number?
champions.
Yeah, right. Because they fight all the time. Anybody.
We have martial arts champions. We could easily take on.
Bill Coleman, what a sweetheart. Bill Coleman's such a sweetheart.
I'd like to say I'm Mo Bergman, but I'm not. Bill Coleman, Worcester. I want to speak on item 9H. Don't worry, Mo. I was just giving you a plug. Nellie Medina, request city council, request city manager, provide city council with a report concerning
roasting Will Bergman. Hey, that's my bag, dude.
Aid from organizations that distribute funds for housing.
This dude hit me up
to determine
like 6 months ago. He wants to make a museum in Framingham for like GM. It was like a GM dealership there.
Something is coming next week. I filed a petition that'll be on the
Ernie Bach, the Ernie Bach Museum.
The city council have a city administration.
All things Ernie Bach.
Crisis and Housing Summit up at the Senior Center.
That's Rocket.
Location. I work with the folks at the Senior Center who are just overwhelmed by so many people, families, seniors looking for housing and the challenges that they confront. You know, if we were, and we can't, but if we were to look at some of the locations that are providing housing to folks in our community, even seniors, there's a couple of places that have very few minorities or any people of color in their housing developments. And the only reason why I found that out is because I was talking to the folks and they were saying, well, you know, we're very limited as to what we can do. And these people have been here for a long time. And I mean, there's no laws out there. Nobody's accusing anybody of discriminating. But I'll tell you, if you looked at some of the housing developments, you'll see it is pretty clear.
You know, I often say that Worcester is a city that punishes you for caring. Bill Coleman is just immune to that feeling. He keeps trying. He's been trying since the 70s. And he just doesn't stop.
No.
Despite the fact that nothing he ever proposes ever goes anywhere.
For those who are physically challenged.
He just likes to be there.
At best, people are hostile towards him. That means at least he's getting some engagement. But most of the time, they just kind of blow him off.
Ask that,
he's amazing.
We take this item under consideration.
Thank you.
And I'll see you next week.
Is that a promise?
Yep.
Like that is so fucking dismissive.
It's so condescending. Yeah.
Slacken, Worcester, Massachusetts. I'm also here to speak about item number 9H, which Nellie Medina requests the city manager provide a report concerning the backlogs of families receiving aid from orgs that distribute funds for housing and determine the capacity of those orgs to confront the linguistic and multicultural challenges. Canvassing over at Lakeside Apartments once a week as a only English speaker, it's very clear that those communities, we can't always communicate with them. And I can only imagine as canvassers, I can only imagine the difficulties for actually having city council or other organizations really reaching out to these communities.
So the city council never does that. Don't worry.
It's kind of endemic.
Nah, that was never a concern. Never a concern.
I think that we really care about immigrants. And so if there are ways that we can provide services to make them more involved in city politics, but also, you know, recognize whether or not our organizations have the capacity to communicate with these groups of people and understand their needs and to make sure that their services are met and that they're not being abused or excluded from the rights and privileges that they deserve within our community.
Another good idea that the council is going to summarily ignore.
On 17B, Lucas requests the city councilor provide a council with a legal opinion regarding the process of instituting residential rent control program.
I actually missed this guy's name. I don't know.
That affordable housing works in this city. I think that we can all agree that there is a housing crisis in this city. So I think that whatever we can do as residents of Worcester for our community members to provide them with services that allow them to have an opportunity to afford to live in this wonderful city, I think we should do. I really love living in Worcester, and I'm sure a lot of other people do who don't have the ability financially to do so. So if there are ways that we can find to allow people who are current residents in the city to stay in the city, I think that that's really important. I really appreciate all of your time in listening to my thoughts. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
And nope,
Okay.
Didn't even
Name and city of residence.
didn't even
Item
know.
number.
My name is Diane Pertano. I'm referring to 9A. My brother died in Vietnam 53 years ago. My parents had a memorial stone put at the corner. It's Pertano Square. And we have trucks that are 60 feet long, including the cab length, from a factory down the end of the street that come up, apparently don't know how to make a right-hand turn onto Plantation Street. And my brother's
love
stone
stuff
keeps
like
getting
this.
knocked over, and the city has to keep repairing it. So I'm asking that 2 bollards be put up. One, they already moved the
What?
stone over. Let me back up. My
2
parents had
ballers?
it put in place at the corner that they could see it. Now I can see it from my kitchen. So when they repaired it from the knockover in January, they repaired it in May. I agreed they could push the stone over this way a little bit so I could still see it at the corner of the stone. So I requested bollards then. That has not happened. So now, last Monday, a week
Gotta look
ago,
up what this means.
it got knocked over again. Now, I'm so sensitive to this issue.
bollard is a
and I'm so
male
angry
duck.
about this, that every time a truck goes up my street, I'm running to the window. I am running to the window to watch it. And that's just not right. So I
Gotta get a
want
couple
bollards
balls
put
on
up.
that square.
They have
You know
already
what I mean?
knocked down 2 street signs that say parking only 15 minutes at the corner. You know, I don't want to get away from the issue. I want the bollards up. And my second request, and to me, it's more cost effective for the city to put 2 bollards up than to keep locating the insurance companies of these truck drivers and then paying to have the sidewalk repaired. I mean, I have a video on my phone that you wouldn't believe, a Mack truck literally, and I watched this happen, it was heartbreaking, run right over the stone with his back tires, only to back up and run over it again. I mean, really? This is
hates that stone.
ridiculous. So this brings me to my second issue. I'm referring to 9E. I'm requesting that a sign be put up
Is that
to
her
stop
phone?
right-hand turns from South Farino.
That
onto
was my
Plantation Street.
Spotify.
They more
Nice.
often than not go
I
over
don't
the
know
sidewalk,
how that happened. That scared the
which is
crap
why
out
my
of me.
brother's stone gets hit. And
Good song.
they actually
It is a good
sometimes
song.
when they do it correctly,
That's
they go
super weird
right
that
onto
would come through
Plantation
my.
Street to make that turn, and they
We're
run
figuring
over
it
the
out. We're figuring it out.
sidewalk across the street where there's a bus stop. So I don't think right-hand turns should be made for trucks that are over 30 feet long, because the shorter trucks, there's no problem. It's those big, long Mack trucks, and there's many of them.
Tell you
and
what, I
they
need a
go
baller
all
to
night
some
long.
Mary tonic
So that's-
cocaine.
Thank you for listening.
That's what I need.
No, you're more than welcome. We hear you loud and clear.
Thank
So
you.
your first petition will go to Public Works, and George Russell's the chairperson of that committee, and Donna Corio's, the second petition will go to her committee of traffic and parking.
Who was the second one going to?
Donna Corio.
Oh, okay,
So
great.
she'll-
Thank you.
you'll be
Good
notified
luck. She
by
can't
letter
spell
when both of
bollard.
them hear it.
Okay, thank you
Okay.
for listening.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, does that need to go to committee, or can we just send it to the administration with a recommendation to install?
More engagement for
do that.
this
Why don't we
than
do that?
Okay.
anything
Yeah.
I've heard in
Hello,
a
my
year
name is-
from the
Hey,
city
hang on,
council.
hang on.
Yep.
Hold on.
Council-
They actually
Council-
tried to do
Council-
something.
So, prior to doing so, I do think.
An
that's
8-baller
great
to
there,
Mary
but we've
ton of
had this
cocaine.
Discussion before on this monument.
I do. You know what?
and
My
the
reaction to that
administration
woman
was
is
great about
trauma is
fixing it
fucking
last
nuts.
time,
That's what.
And it was talked about on
That
council
sucks
floor.
for her.
There's a real issue
Mhm.
right there.
Sweet mask
because the
wearing
trucks
candy.
Are not,
Yeah.
that street is not wide enough, as Diane said.
God, she's a
And
real piece of
somebody's
work.
gonna get hurt there, and it's gonna be Canty Annie Insurance.
I will say,
Company.
in her
Because when
defense, it's
those
very
trucks
hard to
come
wear a
across
mask
there,
with
they're
those
hitting that
Sally Jesse
monument,
Raphael
which
glasses.
is
Yeah,
saving
you're
them
right,
from
you're right.
cutting
Doesn't
into
work,
that
right.
building. That
Yeah, how about
monument was
the
hit,
how
as
about the
she,
AFL-CIO
Diane had said last Monday, and I
endorsing
just,
Cipro
think it's really
because it's
important
her
for the
Yeah.
managers
husband?
to know that when I
Yeah.
contacted Rob Antonelli.
Yeah, the AFL-CIO,
that
nope,
day,
it's just this
and that
woman's
they fixed
husband.
it. That
And she
monument
endorsed
is
Richard
up,
Cipro
but that
and
monument
the
is not going
Pornhub
to
blonde
stay
sign
up.
lady.
You don't act
Yeah.
fast on that
It's
sign.
just, and
And I
they
know
didn't
that we
endorse
talked
anybody who
about
said
that
anything
on
about the cops
council
at all.
last
No.
year when it was
No.
hit.
Not a
So
single endorsement.
I
Wild.
think it would be great if
Wild.
it went to
Yeah.
the manager.
Okay, so we'll send that to the manager. Okay, roll call.
Also, you've heard remarkably little about how Candy has a contested
Bergen?
race.
Yes.
Joanna Hampton Dance.
Calorio?
Yes.
And that hasn't
Council King?
seemed to
Yes.
come up once.
Councilmember
And there
Carlson?
hasn't been any sort of forum scheduled on it or
Councilor
anything.
Yes.
And it's like,
Councilor Rose?
wonder why.
Yes.
Wonder why.
Councilor Rosen?
Yes.
Councilor
So
Russell?
strange.
Yes.
Was
Pearson?
there?
Yes.
There was
Mr.
just the,
Wally?
there's just the
Yes.
two of them, right? So there was no primary.
Yes.
No
What's your
primary,
name?
yeah.
So you're
So we don't know
referencing
what
item
the
Yep, my
race
name is
looks
Nelly
like.
Medina. I reside at
No, there's been no
Lakeside in
coverage.
Worcester,
Oh,
in
oh
the
Nelly
Fifth
Medina's good
District.
people.
So I have two items that I want to comment on. One is a petition that I brought forth, which is 9H, the city manager to provide the city council with a report on the backlog of families requesting support for rent or mortgage payments from organizations distributing such funds
Doug.
for housing needs, number of requests that have not been met, average maximum waiting periods to receive assistance. Also request that the city manager solicit from these organizations an assessment of their capacity to engage with speakers with limited English proficiency, translation and interpretation, services provided, or needed to outreach strategies and staff, and for the city manager to provide that assessment to city council. I'm standing here today as a representative for the Parents Union of Massachusetts. We are a group of families, 70% of us are immigrants, and a number of families over the last 2 years have applied for services from these organizations that hold the money for rents. And many families, over 100, have submitted all of their documents, everything that they have, all of their demographics, only to never hear back again. And so that's an issue. There's also the issue of not having enough Spanish-speaking or Brazilian-speaking staff to meet the needs of this community. And so it's a real emergency, especially when we're dealing with the high housing crisis that we are at the moment. I do know that these agencies are doing their best and that it's hard for them to retain their staff. So we want to know what's going on. What
Notice
can be done to improve the outcomes
how
for these families who are applying
they're
for
not
this
going to
aid that
comment
need it.
on this at
It
all.
shouldn't be this way.
But
If
the lady
funding is
asking
there,
for
it
the
should be used
ballards
accordingly. And
right
I feel
away.
like
Hey, can we
unless we find
expedite
out why
this?
this is happening,
This
we're
is a
not gonna be
horrible
aiding
thing.
anyone. And we're just
Also,
gonna
when they
keep
cut
coming
back to the
back,
mayor, he will
back
be
and back,
looking at his phone.
because this is an
Oh,
outrage.
yeah.
17B, also, we need to find out if, I know that the state is a little bit, is not in favor, but if we can do something as a city to benefit the residents, maybe a cap on rents, anything that can help mortgages or even homeowners, renters alike, to pay their rent so that the rent is not rising. It seems like in the city, what we're doing is we're giving tax incentives to big corporations. But when it comes to the small single home owner, they're being taxed and they can't pay that. And so it's just not serving our community at all. So those are my two requests. I thank you for your time, and I'll be back.
Let's make that the slogan of Worcester. Worcester City Council. It's just not serving our community at all.
Residents and item number?
Thank you. Ed Moynihan.
See, they didn't even bring. They didn't even. They weren't even like, thank you. to her.
Not even an acknowledgement. Yeah.
Not even an acknowledgement.
13A, which is being referred to the Economic Development Committee. And I was a vote against referring that, approving this extension of the rezone. And I just wanted to explain a little bit in more detail the reason why I voted no on this. Polar Park has succeeded, thanks in large part to the work of the city manager.
Oh, this is about the bridge.
His staff, the mayor, and the city
Rezoning
council,
it for apartments. This is
and
what this
in
is. This
some
is about the
measure,
bridge.
The Chamber of Commerce as well. I don't know. Maybe we're up to $1 billion in public and private investment to improve the Canal District and places like that. And certainly in the last 2 years on the planning board, I have seen and approved many of the projects and also some of these extensions of the zoning that have occurred in the city. And money is certainly flowing in from New York and from Boston, and the heart of the Commonwealth is
Can we
certainly
turn up the
beating
council
really
audio?
well because of that.
We
with
can
this
in
issue
1
and with
minute,
this
as soon as
extension,
Travis gets back in
I was
here.
faced
He has
with,
control over it.
to me, how much is our soul worth? We are talking about the bridge. We are talking about a group that put together a community, and they didn't ask, as far as I know, anything from the city. They didn't ask for a TIF. I don't think they asked for any zoning issues.
Wouldn't have gotten it.
What they built there, serving an underserved population in an underrepresented area of the city, is a community. And they built it. And they built it with sweat and tears and blood and heart and soul. And it was good. It was good.
This is a bummer.
But what happened was money came in and they were displaced. And so
Ain't that
I felt
fucking...
that for me and my conscience, I voted no. I know what we're up against. I know what you're up against. You're going to have to approve this at some point after it comes back. And sometimes the fact that you vote no or you fight even though you're going to lose sends a greater message to our community that we are here and we're listening and we're going to stand with you even if we lose.
Thank you. Can you wrap up your comments?
Yeah, one last thing.
Yep.
District 5, before the primary, the District 5 candidates had a question asked to them, is that how can we get more people involved in our community? Well, if people feel like they have value and that we value them and this community values them and this board values them, then maybe we can start reversing that trend and have people become part of a valid.
Whoa, what a novel idea.
But thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
Weird.
I do appreciate it.
They didn't want
Good to
that.
see you again.
Nah,
Haven't
they
seen
just
you in a while.
rather continue being like, nah, fuck you.
Yeah.
You don't have a
Yeah.
home, don't vote.
Okay, then anybody else in the audience want to speak before we go? Just your name and city of residence?
Shaun Libby. I'm from Grafton Street in Worcester. Coming to address item 9G.
9G.
I had called in last city council meeting on via the Zoom call to discuss.
This is a
the
real
issue
Grafton Hill
with
guy.
the, large groups of people driving down the street on bikes, motorcycles.
I bet his truck rules.
Motorized bikes taking over the whole street.
Just a
causing
big white
hazard.
GMC.
I've
Oh,
talked
God.
to
Give me a
several of the council
fucking
members.
break with
I've also
these
talked to
people.
several of the city police officers and was told that the decision has been made by the city not to pursue because it's a danger. I first of all think that's ridiculous.
Yeah, if I vote, that
If
was
I'm
a
driving without
rumor.
a license,
I mean,
if I go
clearly,
to a stoplight, if I am
He didn't.
speeding, would you pull me over?
Yeah.
Would that not be dangerous?
Didn't want it hard enough.
That's over. He could have. He didn't.
Yeah.
What's the difference between having a large group of kids driving down the street, creating an obstacle in the street? A public hazard? I actually, personally myself, was almost run off the
Nice.
sidewalk.
I love an
because there was,
OTP
a couple
reference.
kids riding on one of those motorized bikes. I find it offensive to think that we can't.
On it dots.
handle
Give it
this
up.
situation,
Give it up.
but
That's some good
we'll
fucking
handle
pizza.
somebody speeding. What's the
Drug
difference
front,
between somebody
maybe.
speeding
Pizza,
and that
great.
being a public?
Hey, some of my favorite places in Worcester have been drug
excuse me,
fronts.
being-
Playoff
Yeah.
Arcade? Are you kidding me?
Too
Yeah.
dangerous to do, and somebody who's riding a bike down the street. I think it needs to be addressed.
Mill
Because
Swan
what's gonna
School,
happen
all of
in
it.
the
It's
city
great.
when somebody, an elderly person, hits one of those people riding down the street and taking up the whole street? What are you guys going to say to them then? What are
God,
we
can
gonna
you
do when
imagine
the
how
law
angry this
happens
guy
if
gets
the
in his
city has
car
chosen not to
when he
address
sees a
that
little kid on a
situation? 'Cause
bike?
It's going to happen.
Dude.
It's
He
going to
just
come down.
he wants to
Somebody's
hit
gonna
him
get hit.
so bad.
Somebody's
He
gonna
wants
get
to
killed.
rock
Are
this
you going to
rock
tell those
that kid.
parents
He
that we chose
fantasizes
not
about
to
it.
chase after your
He,
kids
that's why
because
he's crying,
we
is
didn't
because
want
he
to
thinks
pursue them
about it
because
so
it was too
much.
dangerous?
Yeah.
Or is it too dangerous to have them in the middle of the street, taking up the street, causing a public nuisance, and causing a danger to people on the streets and on the sidewalks? I thank you for your time.
The council's going to comment on this
Send that
one.
Probably the public safety. You can have a.
Send it to public
Hey.
safety. Hey, we do something with this one. Not with
Yeah.
Melly Medina's. We don't do anything when Melly Medina says that no one can access city fucking services or find a fucking place to live in this city. But when you have some fucking white guy from Grafton Hill get up and scream about how there's fucking kids riding their bikes on the road, they do something. Jesus Christ.
Sean Libby, drive a little slower.
Here in Bryan,
Yeah.
move on. I also have
Jesus
Isabella
fucking
on the phone.
Christ, I can't
Isabella, I'm
take
trying
this
to
shit.
mute you now.
Man.
I don't have anything to say. I'm just listening in.
Okay, thank you. We have Margaret Burnett next. Margaret, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead.
Oh, this is going to be great.
Okay, hi. I'm calling. Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Margot Barnett, and I'm a resident of Worcester. I'm calling to speak about item 12B, the school committee elections. I spend a lot of time with electoral maps, and I really understand why this lawsuit is necessary, because why this change is necessary, because the way that the elections happen now, the electoral participation is skewed by some communities having more homeowners, and so people's residences are more permanent, as well as fewer non-citizens and fewer young people. So that what that does is it skews areas like Ward 9 and Ward 1. And so what we see now in the school committee, and I know you've all decided that you're not going to contest this, but just to make the point that with the school committee having almost everybody on the school committee being from Ward 9 and Ward 1, and that's happened for years, it unfairly advantages people who are already advantaged. And so creating something like minority districts, I think, is a really good idea, because especially considering the makeup of the school population. I think that keeping at-large districts is something that kind of keeps a vestige of the old problem. So I think that a purely district-based system is better. I thought that Mr. Bisbee made some really good points that that having to carve out create whole new districts for school committee elections might be really confusing to people. I think if we do public education, it could work. I'm not well enough informed about the ranked choice voting to be able to comment on that, but I want to encourage you to go forward with this with.
Yeah, if it's a good point, it's not even on the agenda.
The importance of
I don't know.
representation of people who really represent the majority of the student population.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, that ends public participation.
Okay.
Online.
Okay. We are all set then. Public participation is closed.
That's the happiest Joe Petty is all week.
Yeah, he loves that.
Okay, we're going to go the hearings and orders. The motion is to open the hearing on the
God.
location on Mullen Road.
Just the way this guy talks.
Council Bergman.
Yes.
Council Calorio.
Yes.
Council
It's
King.
like,
Yes.
Councilmember
I
Carlson.
really do like him.
Council Rivera.
Yes.
And that's
Me too.
why he's been
Yes.
like
Council
successful.
Rosen.
Yes.
Council Russell.
I do like
But
him.
he's like it's like my dad.
Connolly.
I really
Yes.
like my dad, but he drives me fucking crazy.
Anybody
And
against?
Yeah.
Joe Petty is my politics
Nobody
dad.
against. The
Yeah.
motion is to close the hearing and adopt the order. Roll call.
Council Bergman.
Yes.
Council Calorio.
Yes.
Council King.
Yes.
Councilmember
Now, Trev,
Carlson.
tonight I was hoping before we
Rivera.
really
Yes.
get into the
Council
counselors
Rose.
talking, I was
Yes.
hoping that
Council
we can
Rosen.
keep,
Yes.
Council Russell.
if it comes
Yes.
up, I know it
Toomey.
will.
Yes.
Council
A
Wally.
ticker
Yes.
at the bottom
Mayor
of
Yes.
every time Donna Calorio
The order
says,
of
"I don't know" or "I don't
Councilor
understand."
Carlson, opponents rule
If we could
30.
just
Oh,
keep a
yeah.
tally of that.
She
Councilor
is
Carlson requests
so lost
reconsideration of the
all the
vote of
time.
City Council taken on October 5th, 2021 to adopt report of the Committee on Public Works upon the petition of Frank Santa Maria requests Casco Street be renamed Santa Maria Way. Recommend the option of the accompanying order. So for reconsideration, a roll call.
There we go.
Oh my
Good.
God.
Council Bergman.
Yes.
Council Calorio.
Yes.
Council
Like,
King.
Yes.
I
Councilmember Carlson.
actively follow
Council
Worcester
Rivera.
politics,
Council Rose.
and if I was just going off
Yes.
of what Joe
Council
Petty said
Rosen.
right there,
Yes.
I would have
Russell.
no
Yes.
fucking
Council
idea
Toomey.
what they're voting
Yes.
on.
Can't.
Council
Like,
Wally.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mayor
He
Petty.
can't read off the paper out loud.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
His
I
cadence
would
is
like
strange.
to file this order.
Okay, motion is to file, roll call.
Council Bergman.
Yes.
Council Calorio.
Yes.
Council King.
Yes.
Councilmember Carlson.
Yes.
Council Rivera.
Yes.
Council Rose.
Yes.
Council Rosen.
Yes.
Council Russell.
Yes.
Council Toomey.
Yes.
Council Wally.
Yes.
And Mayor Petty.
Yes.
So, Mr. Mayor, for the record, I just want to make the statement that the recommendation from the committee would be to file this particular petition.
Correct.
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, do we need reconsideration available on that?
Yeah, I can do reconsideration if
Okay.
you like.
Motion to reconsider.
Why are they going through?
Councilor
Okay, so
Bergman.
this is actually interesting.
Councilor
They're going
Calorio.
through a lot of
No.
procedural
Carlson.
processes for a simple street
Rivera.
rename, and I don't
Councilor
know
Rose.
why.
No.
Is this
Rosen.
contested? Did somebody
Councilor
contest
Russell.
this?
No.
Yeah,
Councilor
I mean,
Toomey?
this has to.
No.
This is
Councilor Wally?
for
No. Mayor Petty?
all of the at-large counselors. It feels like these are the
Okay,
important
petitions,
things
first one we
because
did. Okay, 9B to 9E.
It's the things they actually
somebody
have
got their
control over.
Yeah,
And
it's not a political stance. It's
9F,
just about
the hearing
like
for October
doing a
19th at
favor for
Canterbury
somebody
Street
they
condo
know.
location.
Yes, exactly.
9G, the public safety, and 9H to the manager. We take collectively on a roll call. Roll call.
Councilor Bergman?
Yes.
Councilor Calorio?
Yes.
Councilor King?
Yes.
Councilor Merrill Carlson? Councilor Rivera?
Yes.
Councilor Rose?
Yes.
Councilor Rosen?
Yes.
Councilor Russell?
Yes.
Councilor Toomey?
Yes.
Councilor Wally?
Yes.
And Mayor Petty?
Yes, 10A to 10B.
Chairman,
Was that 10H? What's that?
did we take 9H?
9, I just did.
Okay, I wanted to speak. I didn't realize. I thought we went to G.
The motion is to suspend the rules to go back to 9H. Those in favor? Go ahead, 9H.
Yeah, I have to stand up, right?
Yep.
Keep this on.
Yes, keep your
I
mask
don't
on.
think people can hear you when you have it on, so I guess you can take it off and put it back on.
Thank you. I just wanted to speak in
Sure.
support of this particular item. I think that one of the challenges we have here in the city is our diversity. Our diversity also in terms of language and culture. And it would be, I think, a good encapsulation of where we are with regards to our ability to reach these individuals who are struggling with housing. This continues to come up on a daily basis. I know the city's doing a lot of work.
Yeah. So someone in the chat asked, like, where's Rivera and King?
Being able to have this sort of barometer
on these comments. That's what this guy's doing right now. This is what Nelly Medina was talking about
understand the
earlier.
landscape, as it were. So
He
Yeah,
can't
they
do
can't
it when
comment.
she's there.
Yeah.
He has to wait till after. It's really weird.
Yeah.
Perhaps get that to the task force that the manager has put together. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go to Chairman's Order 9A to 10H. His motion is to adopt.
But it's weird how
And,
like
roll call.
procedural things are allowed because like when he like the Ballard thing, like he is like,
Just
oh,
raise
let's
it
talk
10H,
like
it's 10H.
and then everyone
Yeah,
can
10A
speak
to
up on where
10H
it should go.
motion is
Yeah.
like reports from traffic and parking.
Procedural stuff can be
Motion to
discussed
adopt.
at
Roll
length,
call.
but
Councilor Bergman?
actual
Yes. Councilor
responses
Calorio?
Yes.
aren't
Councilor
allowed.
King?
Yeah.
Yes.
Councilor Merrill Carlson? Councilor Rivera?
Yes.
Councilor Rose?
Yes.
Councilor Rosen?
Yes.
Councilor Russell?
Yes.
Councilor Toomey?
Yes.
Councilor Wally?
Yes.
And Mayor Petty?
Yes. Orders, Council Toomey is asked to hold 11B. Council Corio, and so we'll go 11A. Request city manager provide council a report concerning the timeframe for posting and onboarding process of the HHS social worker clinician position added to the Executive Office of Health and Human Services. Council King.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Take on it. I just wanted to emphasize and congratulate this body, the city administration, leadership of the mayor in this effort. I know that when we went back to our budget a couple budgets ago, one of the things I had put forward that we shift some monies to do exactly this, to pilot a social worker in health and human services. And we currently have a team that involves Worcester Police, Code, outreach worker, and some other folks. And I think this is a beginning of filling the gap where we have a more clinical approach to the engagement. When I think about the challenges that we have here as it relates to housing and the confluence of factors that brought us here, I do believe that we don't quite know what the impacts of COVID will have on homelessness and the unsheltered and the lack of affordable housing and how that'll play out here in the city. We know that in different sections in the city right now, we have some challenges, Lincoln Street, other areas. And when folks talk to me about it, I continue to emphasize that we need to kind of broaden our scope and our approach. And this does exactly that. So I'm very appreciative of that. And I think with regards to COVID, what we've seen as it relates to housing and unsheltered and resources.
It
is
sucks
we've
that
seen stimulus packages.
Christian King is the only
Seen
person that
hotel
even
and motel
talks about
agreements
these
for
things.
unsheltered.
And he's still not
eviction,
even like all the way there.
which at some point are going to come to an end.
And he's just like one person
We can anticipate
on an
increased
11-person body.
as
He's
those
the only one that'll talk about anything like this.
the impact of social support.
It's,
on
it's
the
so
length of
that's a
homelessness
huge
is
bummer. There's nothing funny
documented.
about that. That's just a
The city
bummer.
and this body has supported
We have
already
1 out of
today
11
the
counselors
Housing
that'll
Trust
even
Fund,
bring this issue up.
continuing to pursue funding. The city has done that on multiple levels, state, federal, grants, all of the above. And I just want to emphasize the need to begin to build permanent housing here in the city. Hopefully some of our ARPA funds can go directly to that. When you think about what a social worker will do, they'll do outreach alongside and with a clinical lens as a licensed practitioner. They will do prevention and try to identify social services. But the thing with social work that makes it so comprehensive is they're not just looking at the person, they're looking at structures. So it's not a matter of provide services to these individuals, get them into treatment. It's also to assess the gaps in services and to also, as I hope will happen, that they will begin to engage with some of our regional partners here. I think this is a step in the right direction. I'm by no means under any illusion that one social worker for a city of 200,000 is a panacea or a silver bullet.
That's
what it
that's
is,
the thing
it's
about
an
it. It's like
indication
they're not.
step
These
in
aren't
the right direction.
they're not revolutionary ideas.
We
Like
know that
literally, he's like you
we
said, the
need
only the person
multilingual
talking about
folks, as
this, and
mentioned.
it's one.
We
It's
need
one
enhanced
social worker.
services.
It's
It's
one
one
position.
position. What's that person even going to
Not
be able
nearly
to
enough
do?
to address the issue.
How long we will
And
get
he's
this
still
on board.
staking his whole political
It's been
career on it.
quite some time coming.
But that's the
it's
other
great.
thing too, is that
I hope
like
to see in
that's
the future
the
is a team of social workers.
It's insane.
Perhaps a unit of
I mean-
5 or so, given our challenges that are able to go out and connect with our community, and providing clinical supervision to each other's and documentation. I think the data that we're going to be able to gather once we have a
Punisher merch
whole
gets expensive.
system up and running is going to go a long way. So looking forward to the report, and once again appreciate the support of this body in this endeavor and the leadership of the mayor and the manager. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor King. Senator Manager, Manager, you have an update on that? Or just... Okay. Yeah. Here, is yours working?
Yeah, right.
ARPA funds towards a new mic.
This maybe is a quick oral report. I asked Dr. Connolly,
Give you an oral report.
Oh, that is, yes, that's can go in their beanbag guns.
Dr. Castile tells me that she's been working with the Human Resources Office and expects at the beginning of next month, so 2 weeks or so, for it to be posted and to have hopefully a good number of applicants to choose from to fill them. Certainly, if there's anybody out there who has this background, is interested in this work, look for this posting in the next 2 weeks or so on the city's website, and hopefully we'll have a good a pool of candidates to choose from.
Mr. Major, do you want to file that then? Or, one less, or just send it?
What's the options? File or send it to the manager?
Yeah.
Send it.
Okay.
Send it to the manager. Again, Mr. Chairman, just wanted to again, say thank you and that this is a step in the right direction. We're beginning to do things unlike we have been doing, because we know that if you continue to do things the same way, you get similar results. So this is just a great thing, and I wanted to make sure that folks were commended for the process.
Hey, is that Riley?
Okay, so we'll take a
Hey,
roll
Riley.
call.
Thanks for
Councilor Bergman?
jumping in.
Yes. Councilor Calorio?
Yes.
Councilor King?
Yes.
Councilor Carlson? Councilor Rivera?
Yes.
Councilor Rose?
Yes.
Councilor Rosen?
Yes.
Councilor Russell?
The amount they're
Yes.
talking about it, you would
Toomey?
think it would be about
Lawley?
bollards.
Yes. Mayor Petty?
Yes, next time, 12A, transmitting information
The
communication.
Bollards was like the most
4118
action
Act
they've
Road to the
done so far.
Yeah.
precinct thing. relative to the City Council 2020 redistricting process and to give us the Worcester Charter, Section 76 districts, Sections A and B. Councilor Wally.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it was back in June 15th when I filed the original order because there was talk at the State House that this would be happening. And I think what's happening now, there's been a lot written. I appreciate the clerk's communication on the issue. Just for a brief history, typically when we have a census and we go through the precinct redistricting process, it happens through the Election Commission. And 10 years ago, I
crazy how lifelike they got these animatronics now.
Locally, it's a non-political process.
Really impressive work
to make sure that our
by the city's
have the right amount of
Imagineers.
Individuals in it, and we don't break up
Yep.
the neighborhood, keep it consistent.
All right, I got
At the state level, I'm not so sure that process is happening.
crisis
My
in
concern
my
is that
job.
it's political.
It's all good.
I believe the state today released some.
Is it a
proposals,
Ballards issue at Ralph's?
and from what I could
It's
gather,
Ballard's
based on
issue.
Quick online reading.
Um,
The maps are not what we want to see as a city because they're breaking up almost half our precincts in half. So what does that do? It makes it more confusing when individuals go to vote in the next election. In the past, what has happened is we've come up with our own precincts, and the state, when they look at congressional
Guillermo's
and
here. Vote for
delegation
Guillermo, everybody.
houses, they
Hell yeah.
on our own. I think we need to emphasize to the state delegation and to the state house that we want.
Donna
that-
Calorio won't show up to this Twitch.
We know
Tell you
our
that
precincts
much.
best. We know how
No.
to make sure those precincts are drawn appropriately.
Donna
based upon
Calorio,
the
it's just
so I appreciate the
awful.
information that hopefully we'll have.
I don't even have a
discussion,
joke. It's
and
just
we can
That's
take
the
some
thing.
type
It's
of
hard
action
to even.
supporting our clerk and the work he's done and supporting what we want.
just
to
like
do.
a miserable small
Building on
woman, you know, like
precincts
just
that
small of
so
spirit.
far has been a smooth process. Thank you.
We did everything we could. I'm very sorry.
I know Councilor Merrill and Councilor Wally have filed a resolution. I'm probably doing so. Mr. Clerk, I just to get an idea that are you meeting with the state? So they have 50 precincts, we have 60. So there's going to be mass confusion. Are you going to be meeting with them soon this week, the state delegation?
Through the chair to the council, correct, Mr. Mayor. I'm meeting with the state redistricting chairs hopefully on Thursday. I think, I've conveyed them some of the concerns we have locally.
Worst buddy
Worcester
cop
is probably,
movie of all
experienced
time.
The largest growth in the state when it comes to
Oh
a city
my
our
God.
size. So because of that growth, we're going to 206,000.
Hell yeah.
Registered,
Matt, I'm with you,
residents in the
fellas.
city of Worcester.
Wally.
Now we're supposed to have 60 precincts.
How did he even get a
I think we
seat?
have to communicate to the
I
redistricting
don't
chairs.
understand how he won.
They have to take
People
into
like
account
his dad. That's what it
looking
is.
at their,
Yeah,
district
right,
and
right.
His,
That's how
his
it
dad.
is.
His dad was my principal in elementary school.
Correct,
I
Mr.
get
Mayor.
it.
So what
He was
we've
great.
seen come out at the state level today.
But now that
we've
they've
been
met
able to make out
Matt
that
Wally,
some of those
what are they
places
doing?
that
What are you
we
doing?
proposed are out of the 2010 map, and it doesn't account the 2020 data that we have because we have 60 precincts in the city of Worcester proposed.
That's
locally
good.
for
That's
city
rich.
council districts, all the need city council districts. The state, I
Ballad.
think, released 50 precincts for the whole city, and they're going to chop it up basically on state representative district levels, which will increase the number of split precincts, probably 16 or 20 at least, what I've been able to determine so far.
Okay. Now, Councilor Merrill Carlson's been on top.
Donna
He has a
Calorio can do nothing
resolution.
else. She's
Merrill
very
Carlson,
effective
do you
at
want me to read it, or do you want to read it,
reminding
or-
people of
or
color
you
that
wanna
they're
talk about it
undervalued.
first, and I'll read it?
Yep.
Please.
Mm-hmm.
You want me to read it first, though?
You can read it.
Okay.
So,
And we have a point about Councilor Merrill
Just,
Carlson.
is these two separate things? Is it the report and the resolution?
Yes.
Because I wanted to add some questions on the
Oh, you
report.
can, okay, she's going to speak on this first. Then I'll go over
I just
the,
have some questions on the report.
People,
yeah, you can.
I feel like I hear criticism of Christian King. Sometimes people get mad at him for seemingly not like
Merrill Carlson, Councilor
understanding what's going on,
Thank
where
you,
they're at in the
Mr.
city council
Chairman.
meetings. But I really
Um,
do think it's
I
because
was
he's the
around
only one
10
that's
years
actually paying
ago
attention,
when
and
we
it
did
doesn't
the
make any sense. So
It's precisely the opposite
what took place
in
this
that
last
these
week
guys
is
all
something that
have
has never
figured out
taken place at the
exactly
state
what they're
level
doing on
in
every
this
item
manner.
well before the meeting.
And our
And Christian
state,
King is the only one
to,
that's just not in on that.
our clerk's
And
point,
he
is
is
our
just
city
trying to
grew
participate.
by
All
so
of his
many
stuff is
people.
very, very
So we now
organized
are
ahead of
moving
time,
to
which is super illegal to do, but
different
I mean,
precincts.
they're all
The state,
part of the same party. Who's
and
going
what
to call
they
them on it?
did in the last week is
True.
really based on, as you
Except for
said,
Donna Calorio, and she's just too dumb to notice.
2010 census. This is
Honestly,
really
straight up.
extremely important for us. to let the delegation know, and they certainly already know. I was on the phone with them today in my role as someone who represents the 1st Worcester District for the Democratic State Party. So they know, and there's been a lot of talk back and forth about we're asking them really to mirror our precincts. And that's not something, Mr. Chairman, that is different and unique from any other time in Worcester's history. Worcester's history, and the charter says, and the clerk certainly can verify this, is that we, the city of Worcester, will set those precincts. And and Council Wally had raised this concern, and kudos to him for
So for the school committee
raising
plan,
this several months ago about how this would all play out.
if they make it anything
When I
different
look
than
at,
the
and I
council
think
districts, it's just going to be so
today as
needlessly
an
confusing for
example,
people.
when you take
For district school
9-5,
committee people,
one of
that's
the
what they're
biggest
talking about.
voting blocks in the city of Worcester, and you now move that into Ann Goby's district, which Ann Goby, by the way, I'm very good friends with her, but it just seems a little weird that that block goes to Ann Goby. It doesn't even make sense. So look forward to you reading the
I did think about
resolution
just putting up
by
a Pornhub sign on my
Council
front
Wally
lawn,
and myself.
seeing if
I
anyone
just
would notice.
worry
It just
about,
says Pornhub.
Just says Pornhub.
with we're already going to 60 precincts, and then we have all of this on top of it. So I look forward to Nico's meeting with Brownsburger on
a ghost?
Thursday. Thank you.
Okay.
What happened? What happened? I missed it.
Oh, Sean popped
Okay, I'll
in
just read the
for a
resolution,
quarter
and
of a
Council
second.
King will be
Oh,
next.
okay.
Whereas
Goes to
Massachusetts
City
State
Hall.
Legislature has passed Bill 4118, an act relative to re-precincting. Whereas under past redistricting process, and according to the City of Worcester Charter, the city will be the first to create a local voting wards and precincts before lawmakers enact legislation creating new congressional and legislative maps. Whereas due to the delays in releasing the official 2020 census numbers, re-precincting and redistricting are being done simultaneously. Whereas the complete reversal of the traditional process would lead to unintended consequences and disruption to local election governance in the city. Whereas the city has experienced tremendous growth over the last 10 years, creating additional 10 additional voter precincts. Whereas encouraging the state redistricting committee to utilize the city's local census building blocks of 2020 state redistricting process has the potential to eliminate any chance of voter confusion and split precincts between local and state elections. Now therefore be resolved that the City Council, City of Worcester, does hereby support the State Legislative Redistricting Committee utilize the local census building blocks and local knowledge of the city's clerk and the Board of Elections Commissioners to relative to the state's legislative districts for the next 10 years. Councilman Costa, Council King.
They should just appoint somebody to read for him.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I couldn't find this resolution in my packet.
It's just great. Like it goes
No,
right
this is in
through my
relation
brain.
to
Like
the
I
re-
can't.
This was this.
I
put on
can't
my
comprehend
motion,
it.
The motion based on the report that the.
Based on this?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And what came out today. I
Literally,
believe,
the
was
fact that
the,
Christian
state
King
came out
has
there-
issues
their-
with
the
these
state
meetings
came out
is the
their
only thing that
proposal
makes me think
today
he's
with
sane.
the 50 using the 50.
Yeah.
precinct.
It's more proof than anything.
I should say the state
It's-
legislature came out with that, not the state.
But yeah, like you
Through
said,
the
they don't
chair,
need to
Mr.
listen
Clerk.
because they already know.
If you could
Yeah.
just talk a little bit about.
I do think that. Oh, go ahead.
No,
the
King does this. He
language here
feigns
that you wrote,
ignorance
the city
because
will have an opportunity to
he's
reconsider
not really allowed an opportunity to speak otherwise. So he has to be like, for clarification, and then he asks a pointed question.
done by the state. If you could kind of talk about, is there any timelines we're talking about? What are we up against as relates to all of this? What's the
See, that's a very good question about timelines because this would very well take 10 years.
Yeah.
Through the chair to the council, so at this point, the city
Sean.
charter has a time
Hey,
frame
guys.
of 2 months from when we get the redistricting data.
What I
When we
miss?
How you
receive the
doing?
Redistricting data end of August. The
Ballards.
time clock has started at that
Ballins.
point. We've had several public
Hold on,
Send you
hearings
the-
with Board of
we'll send you the
Election Commissioners to
definition
review the
later.
maps and the public to
Great.
come in and testify. We've had those maps up on the city's website.
I'm walking to
and
City
we
Hall
have
right now, so.
Another meeting this Thursday.
Oh, cool.
with
Get in
the Board of
there.
Election Commissioners for another public hearing.
With the
So,
dogs. I'll
we
bring my
have a
dog.
local
Yeah.
process that has been outlined clearly for
Hey.
centuries, for decades in the city of Worcester and the charter Now the state has come up with their process. They only took the vote this Sunday, and the governor just signed the bill this Sunday. So because of that bill, not this past Sunday, the previous past Sunday, because of that, what had happened at the state level at this point, now we have two different maps. We have the local map, which we have to create by charter, and then we have the state legislature map, which they did based on special legislation. So at this point, the charter's got a time clock on us. The state legislature also has a time clock because they also have to approve the map at the end of the month in order for those state representatives to live in the district for a year. So we've got two deadlines that we're trying to meet locally and at the state level. But the concern we have is no one at the state state legislature, will it's Senate or state rep, the state rep redistricting chairs have communicated with us locally. So they don't have an idea what we have here in the city of Worcester. They've only got what they've been working out of the city, out of Boston at the state legislature level. So this lack of communication has become a major issue, and we're hoping on Thursday we rectify this lack of communication. I don't know, from that meeting, as well as I'm going to testify before them on Friday to alert them of this issue that we've trying to come across of the 60 precincts locally, 50 precincts at their maps at the state level. So, I don't know how much time we have to adjust things. But we have a charter that says the city of Worcester has to be divided in 5 city council districts, and they all have to be equally represented in terms of population within 5%. And that's what we've done for the past 2 months here in the city of Worcester. And in order to do that, you had to have 60 precincts. There's no way, based on state standards, you can operate with 50 precincts. So one question I would like to have answered at the state level is how can they operate with 50 precincts with their proposed maps? And we operate with 60 precincts. So hopefully we're going to be able to have the discussion. I know they're just draft maps coming out of the state legislature. They're not final maps.
What all this says is we're never going to see district school committee members in our
So
lifetime.
hopefully we'll get some information.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's saying.
Them.
Yeah. He's saying that this is going to take decades to implement.
As far as reconciling, it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like what are the two biggest concerns here? The 50 to 60 or 60 to 50 and the number of...
Through the chair to the
now, is this something that can only be come down from the state level and Worcester just accepts it, or is that something that Worcester can choose to do on its own?
The larger the ballot types and the larger of
well, this is some in the weeds
in
shit
precinct,
right
for example,
now.
9.5A for a state election, and then 9.5 in the local election.
If you'll remember last
week, state and local election.
They talked for like an hour and a half, almost 2 hours about this.
You have yet to have any discussion. We said there's some communication issues of substance with the state. All right.
It's through the chair to the council. So
everyone else was content to just let this pass through, and Christian King's the only one that's actually pressing on
locally
this.
At this point, in terms of our maps and the state legislature redistricting chairs, what they have, at the state level. So hopefully, when I have a discussion, hopefully this coming Thursday, so they can review what we have locally and then see what we can go from there.
And on Friday, what do you have scheduled? You said there's something else scheduled. The reason I'm asking is I'm trying to wrap my head around the solution and what it means if I vote on it, or if I vote affirmative or negative. So, what do you have on Friday?
Yeah, it's like a deposition.
On Friday,
he's just couching it in like, I don't get it.
Yeah, at the state level.
Okay. He's doing the Columbo thing.
Yeah, he is. He is. Good point.
One more thing.
What it means as
Christian Columbo King.
Christian King Lumbo.
So this legislation has passed, it sounds like already. It passed today.
It didn't pass. They came off their proposal.
Oh, okay. I'm just reading this the resolution.
Oh, it passed. Oh, it did pass them. Yes, it did. So
yeah, it says it passed.
So King's like, which one, idiot?
Yeah.
Which one? You
the condescension only to be proven wrong within milliseconds.
I know.
To the council, basically, you've got the state proposed map, and we got the city proposed map. We have authority locally to approve the city district council maps, and then once we approve it locally, it goes to the state redistricting board, which is the LEDRC, and they have the final vote. Once they vote on it, then we get our district city council map finalized. The state has the same authority. They can vote on their maps. The problem that we have is if they vote on their map and then we vote on our map and they don't match,
them
that's
crazy.
and
it's really pretty minor, mild stuff.
I think I have it right.
He sounds like when
basically
like the auto body guy, you take your car in. He's like,
what
listen,
the
we could do
map
all
that
these
the
things with the
city clerk came up with
carburetor,
at the election.
and you could use a different synthetic oil, or you could just scrap the whole
So
thing
it's
and get it
basically
done.
his 60.
Yeah.
And you also, sounds like you have questions that you don't believe it's possible to do it per the charter with 50 versus 60, right?
And Chris is like,
Chair.
so explain a deductible again to me.
Correct. So basically, the charter says we have to split the city into 5 city council
Internal
districts.
combustion. Let's
With
go
the
through
data
this
that
from
we
the
have and the
beginning.
data that we've been working with the Secretary of the Commonwealth's office for the past 2 months, there's no way you can build it off of 50 precincts because of the population growth.
Okay, and in anticipation that there's this difference, how many split precincts are we talking about based on your?
This is what he's really getting at.
Through the chair to the council, at this point, I've only had a few hours to look at the maps. So we're thinking about, just preliminary 16 split precincts, just with a preliminary overview.
And that's
Because
something
the
that they
issue
would never
we
say
come across when we're reviewing
without him
these maps.
asking
And again,
that.
these are all preliminary
16 split precincts, and
information
that's
I'm providing
huge.
to council because we have to dive deeper into this tomorrow in the coming days. We are now aligning that the precincts that they released at the state level today look like similar precincts to the 2010 map that we had in the city of Worcester. They don't look to match our 2020 local map for city council districts and ward and precincts.
And
that's just
the clerk and
great.
the Board of Elections are all on the same page,
Wow.
right? You guys, am I right? Just because I'm reading here. that
Wow.
City clerk and Board of Elections to withdraw.
Kickstart
the
my heart of the
states-
Commonwealth.
To redraw the state districts. That's the will of the.
Apex Filth, great work. That was
Through to
that
the
was
council. So
that was a
basically
journey.
The process, the clerk works with the Board of Election Commissioners, but the Board of Election Commissioner takes the vote. We provide the administrative support to get them through the public hearings and the process with their feedback. And then once they take the final vote, it goes to the state legislature. No, I'm sorry, not the state legislature, the Secretary of State and the
Put your mask
LERC
back
board.
No, Mr. Chairman, I certainly support
Thank
getting
you.
this right.
I can't understand simple legislation without taking my mask off. Sorry.
Listen,
on me.
it's hard. I understand. I'm a mouth breather too,
regards to
but
all of this.
you got to do it.
People, when you're talking to
there's
someone
been a
and they
brief
take their
review.
mask off to
There's
hear
an
you.
opportunity for
They
the
hear you,
city.
yeah. It's like turning down your radio when you're
to,
looking for a street to turn down.
Work with the state on Thursday and on Friday.
Hey, African, you know
members of the
why they're
chair
so annoyed
to
that
the
he's
clerk,
asking reasonable questions? Is
you know,
because they already decided and went over
regarding the
all of the stuff
necessity to
in
move this
executive
forward now
session, meaning it was in
terms of
private.
time.
And what
had
Christian
to
King
meet
is
the
doing
state,
is
this came
basically
out,
introducing all of this stuff into the public record, and
what's
that's
the
what they're annoyed
necessity
about.
of doing this today through the chair.
Bingo.
Yeah, they all went to the point and decided what they were going to do.
To the
already.
chair, to the council. So basically, when it comes to the redistricting process, the whole process falls within the Board of Election Commissioners. I think the will of the council tonight, if you support, a resolution, again, if you support a resolution to support the board and the city clerk in the redistricting process locally, I think that's the only vote you'll be taking tonight. Because at the end of the day, it's the Board of Election Commissioners that make.
And Christian's the only counselor that has a problem with that.
And we don't have that in front of us today.
It's really an interesting trick to be
I'm inclined to hold this and get
almost
some more information.
like wholly conservative
certainly
body,
listen if folks
but
have
to
more to add.
everyone call yourselves
But
Democrats so that no
I'm
one
not quite
questions
sure
it and no one can
what
fight
this all
against it
means.
because you're
I
all just one
understand the
party.
basics of it.
Yeah, right.
But
I mean, there's no party to the left of you, so
I
why
know
not?
we're working on it. I don't know what the outcome would be. Perhaps there's something in between, and I just think this is rather unexpected that we had this before us today.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
So King motions to hold. That means just push it back a week.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
Hang
Mr.
on,
Chairman.
I'm sorry. Council Rose has his hand up prior to you.
He really is the only one trying.
Yeah,
I've felt that
Sorry
way
about
for
that.
years.
I just have a couple quick questions. So, and I'm sorry for the redundancy.
Basically what he said. Yeah, y'all are fucking dumb.
Understand that as best I can. So, in effect, what transpired was the state took our 2010 map and is using that as an example of a
What are we
future
doing?
map.
No, I
Why
don't
is it
know.
just me?
In doing so, it creates 16 potential.
Bill,
split
Bill got bored by
districts
Sean's
that
voice.
can cause massive confusion.
Travis
between,
got excited because
municipal
he
and state
heard
elections through the chair,
Seltzer
the,
Time guest Sean Rose.
our city clerk.
Beautiful
Is that-
voice.
am I understanding that
Sean
correctly?
was right in front of
To the
City
chair, to the
Hall.
council,
I was
that
trying
is
to
my
focus
preliminary
in.
interpretation of the maps. Again,
there
the
it
maps
is.
only came
Let
out
me
at
in.
1:30 p.m.
Hey,
today.
let me in.
Wait,
So
what?
what we've been able to review the past few hours is a lot of those
I used to
precinct
know how to do
lines
this.
align with
Yeah,
our
it's fine.
2010 ward and precincts.
Oh.
They do
Thanks
not
to everybody
align
for
with
watching.
the 2020 ward
Oh!
and precinct
I dropped
proposals,
that.
as we've been discussing them for the past
Show's falling
month
apart.
and a half to 2 months now.
Thank you. And so through the chair
Shit.
to city clerk, when they provide these maps, do they give any
We can do it because of the
rationale
feed,
or
right?
any reason as to why they draw the lines the way they do? And if so, what was their rationale around these potential split precincts?
Man, you don't realize how loud
To the chair, to
downtown
the
Worcester
council,
is
so
until you're trying
at
to
this point,
stream
I
the
haven't
show.
had the conversations with the redistricting chairs. I think, once we
I
have
gotta be right
the
back.
conversation,
Yeah.
that's where, we'll have a lot of the questions that, the council shares, and I'm sure the Board of
What was the
Elections will share, as
bollards?
well as
What's
I,
that?
as the city clerk, will share. as
This
well as the
lady
rationale that they use
during
at
the
the
public
state level.
comments has a
But again,
petition
in
to
the past,
put
this process
bollards
has
up
been
in front
started
of
locally. We come up with our
a
maps, we come up with
monument
our
for her
rationale,
brother,
then it goes
one
to
of the
state, and then
squares,
they use our building
and
blocks to
it
build out
literally
their
got more
state
discussion
legislature
than
maps, both the
anything
Senate and
until
the House
this,
side.
until Christian King
On this
did like right off the bat.
process, we're working at the same time, and we're not communicating, and that's what the possible outcome, right?
I see. Thank you. So, okay. So is it fair to say that this resolution that is before us is an endorsement of the city and local building blocks for the state to, instead of doing their diligence, to take
We're
our
still
diligence
working on
and
getting
move
that
from there?
camera
Is that fair to
installed.
say?
I'll
Yeah,
report
we'll
back.
get it.
Clerk?
Yeah, we'll get it.
To the chair, to the council, I don't want to speak for Council Wally or Councilmember
Hey, look,
Carlson, but that was my
look,
interpretation of
picking
this
up a
resolution.
bill and from the Worcester City Council.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Carlson.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This
There we go.
resolution, I understand why people feel like it's upon them tonight. But I think, as you heard, is that this vote took place this afternoon. There's a few folks at the State House who asked for this to be done. It really solidifies the city of Worcester's position that this is what we've done in the past always. We've always followed the city of Worcester's building blocks for our voting maps, districts, and precincts. So what they're asking for is for this to be sent to
This whole
the committee
subject
in Brownsburger for
really
just
screams
to
for a couple phone
reiterate
calls
to
from me
him
to some
that
people
we're looking for him to
after this,
do the
being like,
maps
what
as
the
we've
fuck was that all about?
and again, in fairness to them, because of
The outdoor
COVID,
cat strikes
they
again.
got this thrown in their lap.
It's
So
like
I don't want
this has what the fuck is this all about?
sort of going after
All
them.
over.
This isn't
Yeah.
about going after
Yeah,
them.
they
This
are.
is a
They're all
process that they
talking in
wind
code
up
to each
getting
other
stuck
without trying to
with.
be rude.
They just
Exactly.
finished the process.
When
Ian was
today.
trying to let on
We
to
are
us what's
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
the issue
building
is.
blocks. And what
exactly.
they're saying
And when
is,
Candy Merrill Carlson says
send me
this
your
isn't
map.
about, that's
And
absolutely what
they're
it's about.
looking for
100%
us
of the
to
time.
Yeah.
When she goes,
Like
this
when
isn't
she-
about this, it is about that. It
Like when she
absolutely
presumably
is.
says, "I'm not racist."
You're right.
Or when I say, listen, I got nothing against the guy, but
Oh yeah, you do. Yeah, the fuck you do, Candy.
when I was
God.
much more
Also,
involved
when
than
anybody
this
ever
time
says,
around,
"This is what
we
we've
didn't
always
have
done,"
this because we
come
didn't
on,
have the
everyone.
state
Yeah.
going before
Come
us.
on.
We've
So that's
always
good, right?
been,
Right?
sort of the hawk
So that makes it good
pulling the
that you've always done it.
So this is in no way, trying to say that they're doing something different. And again, remember that the city of Worcester
Put this
is
comment
one
from
that
Brian
it
up.
is in our charter. Not every city and town has it in their charter that
Very,
they're,
very good.
that they use.
My boys
their
down at the
maps
labor
that they
culture,
draw. So
labor
that
council
was the
negotiated
reason
it.
for
We got a
and
shipment of new
again, they
precincts
asked,
coming.
Listen, we can't make the
put a
maps without the
resolution on, and
union
then that way
printing
there,
them.
that also gives Nico, when he goes there, to say that, this map that Nico and the election commission drew, this is what we
The
support.
state said we needed new maps, so we made ones that benefit the incumbents. What? Well, nothing wrong with that.
The state said.
Mr. Chairman, I rise to say that I support this because
Oh yeah,
we
she's a
certainly,
real.
for all the
Talk about a
reasons that were
piece of
mentioned,
work.
but also the fact
God,
that
listen to this.
why would
This
the
woman.
state
This
want to
like
move forward with something that they had incorrect data.
200
You know,
IQ
so
on
I
this
think
one.
it needs to be corrected. I think it needs to be corrected quickly.
I like that the heart goes
because
over
I
her
think
mouth
that
and looks
people
like she
need
has
to
a
move
hole.
on. They've spent a lot of time on redistricting
It's a
things.
ball gag.
And I do think that this is time sensitive so that we can get going on it. Thank you.
Oh, it's time sensitive.
Rivera.
Oh no, we can't answer. We can't answer the
I'm-
black
I'm
counselor's
just really,
questions because this is time sensitive.
Sort of trying to make sure that we in Worcester have a solid voice, and we're not just kind of led by whatever the state wants us to do.
Yes,
now,
right.
You know, it's the irony of this. I hope that we're taking all of this into account as we move forward into other parts of what we're going to be discussing in today's agenda.
Someone
But
just
also
say the
looking
quiet
at,
part loud already.
I'm just
The
trying
fuck
to
are they talking
understand.
about?
So this is so.
They're all doing a
at
little
the
tippy
state
tappy dance
level,
with each
our
other.
state representative supports that it doesn't divide our, like currently our state delegation, and do we know specifically if our state delegation has?
Yeah, it's a middle school dance, and no one wants to ask to dance.
Right.
Through the chair to the council, again, Councilor Wally and Councilor Carlson brought the resolution forward in support of the local process. I don't know if they've endorsed it.
I'm just trying to take part of encouraging the state redistricting committee to utilize the city's local census building block for 2020 state redistricting process has the potential to eliminate any chance of voter confusion. I'm just trying to kind of grasp. I'm not saying that I'm just trying to figure out what we're voting for, because for me, part of what's really important too is that not just what's split between our state delegation and our representation of what we have, but also the issue of that we're making sure that we're not splitting up districts that can affect communities of color as well, right? So
True.
I just,
True.
I'm
Very
just trying
true.
to understand,
Very true.
like what is this specifically?
As someone with a low IQ, you're right. I shouldn't be doing that.
protecting or doing, and how does this?
Don't wait yourself there.
How is this like? I'm just trying to understand what this exactly is. I know that that was just explained. And so is this looking at, I just don't want to be able to vote on something.
So Rai Rivera's party
Is it
fealty
just to be able to support that we want
versus
to be able
her
to have a
moral
strong
compass
say
makes her have
on
some
what
of the
happens?
most
Is that what this is
unintelligible
Which is
positions
completely
ever.
great.
When she gets up and talks, she's like, "Well, I want to
So is
do
this
like
resolution essentially saying,
what the city manager and the mayor want, but I also agree with Christian King that
you
there are
know, we want to
questions.
make sure that
So
we
I'm
have a
gonna
solid
talk for
say
5 minutes and
on
have
how
it
the
sound like
districts
absolutely
are
nothing at all."
distributed and who's represented.
And then I think
Because
like I
when the
did something.
state delegation
But I'm not gonna
is
like.
that what
I'm not gonna
this is?
actually like take a stand though.
Okay, I just wanted to understand.
Okay, Councilor King, second time.
Like that was just an entire
Thank you,
waste
Mr.
of time.
Chairman. I just want
Yeah.
to understand a couple of things. So,
Yes.
It's frustrating.
my understanding
It's very
based on
frustrating.
the
Very,
notes
very
I wrote
frustrating.
on here,
Like just
talked is that the state legislature has passed, and the governor signed into law new legislation that the state will get to redistrict first. Is that accurate? Through the chair.
Mr. Gore?
Through the chair to the council. So what do you mean redistrict first? They can complete their state redistrict and Senate, but that doesn't supersede, my understanding, that doesn't supersede the local process.
Right. I'm just asking if that's what the legislature passed. I'm asking about superseding. The governor signed into law legislation, and through the chair, did our local delegation vote in support of that? Do you know if you communicated with them?
Through the chair to the council, I don't know what the actual vote was. I think they've been in support of it, but I can't speak for the state delegation.
Okay. You know, I guess the other question I had through the chair is the election commission. Are they opposed to this House bill as well, based on your work with them?
Through the chair to the council, I can't speak for the Board of Election Commissioners. I have, similar communication before them, as well as at their Thursday meeting. At this point, the local election commission, as well as, the city clerk's office, we have a charter we have to abide by. And that's what we've been doing for decades here in the city of Worcester. And, our process has to be concluded within 2 months time frame of those census data being released.
Thank you. And in terms of authority, how does that work? You used the word supersedes a minute ago. The state draws their maps, and my understanding is that they have the authority and that we would then have to respond accordingly. Is that accurate?
Through the
Based
chair
on the new
to the
legislation?
counselor, when it comes to their state election, they have their authority. When it comes to the local election, we have our authority.
Okay.
The issue we have now is they have their maps and we have our maps. And again, if they're not talking to one another, they're going to have
And there's a
lot of
treasure
confused
chest
votes.
somewhere, but we
You're
don't know
talking
where
on
it
Thursday
is.
and Friday. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we really, it's getting a little murky for me. I'm not sure where the election commission is on this. I'm not sure.
Can
what
we
our
Yeah, it is a
start a
little murky.
GoFundMe
is on
to?
this.
Yeah,
I'm
we need
inclined
to like
Also, I want to
send.
gather more information.
point
I
out
know
for the record that what
there's
they're
been more
talking about,
communication. There's communication scheduled for Thursday
they
and
said
Friday.
that
Are we
there's
back here on
various
Tuesday,
options
Mr. Chairman?
discussed within executive session for how to redistrict school
That was
committee.
my motion.
You go to open up the various attached documents and it's just blank. There's nothing there. Yeah, go to the city council agenda, item 12B.
Mr. Chairman, the
And it says,
12A
please
item
see
is being
attached
referred to
documentation
now,
for
and
various options discussed in
basically
executive
the
session. You open up the
resolution regarding
attachment.
Suspension is being held for the next meeting.
I've done it 3 times.
Council Bergman?
There's nothing there.
Chairman, point of order. It's being held personal privilege. Why are we taking a roll call?
Christ.
Would we have a report
Man,
from the clerk?
political backwater over here.
There was a motion for report from the clerk?
No. we have
There
it
he
in
is.
front of us right now. We have a report from the
Oh
city
my
clerk.
God,
I just
Mo
listened to
Bergman.
them
I
all.
just, I loathe. I detest
Looking at
this man.
12A, is that-
I like
is
his
the
nail
resolution
files.
addition? Looking at, I thought we're voting on 12A. 12A is being held.
We're voting on, no, the resolution is
12B.
being held.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't hear it. We're all struggling with
I
our
should take
masks.
this-
And
I should take this off when I speak, but so
That's fine.
12A is not being held, but the resolution is. So
Thank you.
12A, I was gonna send to the office, to the.
Boy, this is a real comedy of errors, isn't it?
Roll call.
Council
I'm
Bergman?
gonna write a post about this
Council
later this
Deloria?
week that just says, what the
Council
fuck was
King?
that?
Yes.
Councilor Carlson? Councilor Rivera?
Yes.
Councilor Rose?
Yes.
It's
Councilor
just
Rosen?
like-
Anybody
Councilor
anybody in
Russell?
the chat, is this your
Councilor
first
Toomey?
city
Yes.
council meeting
Councilor
you've ever
Wally?
watched
And
or
Mayor Petty?
followed?
Let's
Sound
just
off
hold
if it
12B
is.
For a few minutes. Let's just finish the
Travis,
calendar, come
yeah.
back to
This
it.
is my very first one. I've never
Mr.
watched
Dunn,
one of
go
these.
home,
This is
Doug.
Nicole Valentine, but
You ever been on a first date
finish the agenda.
and like
So
they like every
13A,
time
we're
the
for Economic
person opens their
Development
mouth, you're like, ooh,
Along with 13.
I don't know.
Public Works.
there's something off about this.
Council Bergman?
Yeah.
Yes.
What did
That
I
whole
do?
discussion right
Council
there
King?
was just
Councilmember
that feeling
Carlson?
over and over and over
Councilor
again.
Rivera?
Yes.
Oh,
Councilor
maybe I
Rose?
shouldn't do this.
Yes.
You know,
Councilor
maybe,
Rosen?
Yes.
maybe this
Councilor
is
Russell?
not for me.
Yes.
Councilor Toomey?
How am I gonna
Yes.
extricate
Wally?
myself
Yes.
in this
Mayor
situation?
Petty?
Yes.
I have to go to the bathroom.
14A to
Forever.
14D.
I have no idea what they just voted on there, and I don't think any of them do either.
To, accept and adopt, and 14E to 14V, the motions to accept.
Yeah, what was that?
And also 15.
I don't know. That might be our fault for talking over it.
Sure.
Ordained.
I think it was
But-
13A and B.
You know, take those collectively.
I think they had
Bergman?
to
Yes.
Councilor Correa?
hold the
Councilor
election
King? Councilor
discussion
Carlson?
Yes.
because
Councilor
Christian
Rivera?
asked for that.
Councilor Rose?
So we'll talk about
Yes.
that next
Councilor
week.
Rosen?
Yes.
Councilor Russell?
Yes.
Councilor Toomey?
Yes.
Councilor Wally? Yes. Mayor Petty?
Yes, we have an item table, 2 items tabled under privilege. The
Oh.
first is
All the
Kenwood
attachments are
Ave,
broken.
including not limited to the Worcester Police Department, Worcester Fire Department.
All the
emergency
attachments, what?
powers and enforcement,
They're
broken.
violations,
they're all
as well as
broken?
any
A
updates
lot of them
concerning
are. He stays
court
safe.
actions relative to the location. Councilmember Carlson.
Of course.
Well, see, guys, we just did
Yes,
some
Mr.
journalism.
Chairman,
They
I
put
got
this
a
out,
report from the
tried to vote on it,
administration on
no
this,
attachments.
And we're very hopeful and looking.
One
I've
black
got it on
councilor
my sheet now.
saying that he didn't understand it, didn't
You
feel
wanna
comfortable voting
file
on
this
it.
then?
And then you had Candy Merrill Carlson and Kate
The
Toomey
motion to
saying, I don't
file.
care if he doesn't understand, so we have to
Roll
vote
call.
on this right now.
Councilor Bergman?
Yes.
Councilor Calorio?
We
What the
have
fuck
to
is that?
go.
Yes.
Councilmember Carlson?
Push it through.
Councilor Rivera?
Yes.
Councilor Rose?
Yes.
Councilor Rosen?
Yes.
Councilor Russell?
Yes.
Councilor Toomey?
Yes.
Councilor Wally? And Mayor Petty?
Yes, communication, city manager, transfer information, communication over the housing and neighborhood development activities. That was an excellent report, by the way. And, Council King.
I concur, Mr. Chairman. Excellent report. Just
Yeah,
wanted
I'd love to read it.
Just first.
Oh, this one worked.
Which one? 16B?
Yeah.
Kind of the approach that the multi-pronged approach.
He was refueling.
You look at these bullets that are in this report here, and how services are being provided.
Getting a pick-me-up with a decaf.
Emergency rental assistance, food security, pantries, hot meals, emergency shelters, legal services for folks facing eviction, after-school programs for our youth in the summer and after school, and case management assistance. And I just wanted to say that we're doing a whole lot. And my question to the administration is, with regards to the American Rescue Plan and housing and homelessness and all of these challenges, in terms of the public sessions that have been going on, where are we at in that current process? Has that ended? Is there one left? Do you have a time frame within which that'll be reviewed? Be a month, a couple weeks? What are we looking at?
Mr. Manager?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the public listening sessions have concluded. There was an online survey that was also another vehicle to receive community input. That has wrapped up. I've asked the ED department.
Oh, also, by the way, those community listening sessions would not have
all the
happened if
information
Christian
from
King
the
didn't
online
ask for them.
survey and the listening sessions.
They were
put
just
some,
going to spend the money
data
the way that they
together
wanted
about what
to,
we heard,
and he asked for more
capabilities
public
and
input.
funding and priorities the community identified.
No, they'll still spend the money the way they want to, but
yes,
come back to the council
at least
with a summary of
people
that
got to shame
report,
them
as well as
in a small
some
way.
detailed
Yeah.
recommendations based on community feedback as well as other information that we've received for the council to consider.
Thank you. These solutions and these opportunities for folks are definitely needed. Given the what we anticipate to happen with moratoriums and the like, is there any communication right now with our state partners or federal partners on anticipating an increase when these one-time options run out, or is that something that we're really just kind of hunkering down on our own?
Mr. Manager?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, we're certainly trying to monitor what is being discussed at the state and the federal level. And it's something I had mentioned to the council, I think, when we took up the initial set of recommendations, that we really want to be and need to be nimble as it relates to whatever recommendations we come forth with, because the state is going through a process to determine how they will spend their nearly $5 billion of ARPA funds. And that might inform what we do with our funds. If they're funding some initiatives very aggressively, it may mean we want to do a little less in those areas and do funding.
He's crossing his
in
fingers.
areas that the state is not funding. Similarly, as the federal government looks at
He's a little stinker.
the infrastructure bill as well as the human infrastructure
We
bill,
want to put the money where
includes things like
you want it to be,
broadband,
but
water,
fingers
sewer,
crossed.
road work, etc. We want to be nimble enough to say, hey, there may be other ways to fund some of these priorities that have been identified and
Like
move
Kickstarter
things around
or-
based on circumstances. But I think we can at least get
City's
the
gonna
ball
start
rolling,
a Patreon.
having heard from the
You just love the
community,
word nimble,
quantify
right?
feedback.
Like,
Yes,
what does
he
that?
does.
Some additional
What does that
recommendations,
fucking mean?
but always
What, that is a meaningless term. Nimble means, oh, we don't want to commit any money to anything, so I can just quietly put it where I want.
they figure out what they're
Like
gonna do,
it doesn't mean anything when he says nimble. Besides,
The last question.
don't ask me.
Regarding the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Just wanted to share if anyone from that office can speak to where we are at in the process.
Sure, Mr. Dunn is here.
We gotta
I
be
know the
real
recommendation
agile with
to
our
actually
budget.
Create the trust fund is with the council, and I believe it's in one of the committees, waiting for.
If we do anything at all in any way, shape, or form, we might not be able to do something else if it comes up. So we'll do
right.
nothing.
So you got to
different.
think about that. when you're asking about
through the chair
stuff,
to the councilor,
you
not
gotta think about that because
particularly,
we already had a
it was referred to
plan.
the Economic Development
We
Committee, so
gotta
I
be
think the
nimble though,
meeting
so we
was
can't do
coming
your
on.
stuff, but we'd rather do our plan.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to that.
What if like a big plane crashed in
we've heard
Worcester
time and again,
and we had to like deal with
as I
it?
mentioned earlier, when we
Wouldn't
talk
you want to be
about,
able to deal with that?
ways to attack homeless
Hey,
What if we put the entire city of Worcester on a plane and it crashed on a desert island, and then we realized that there was like a little bit more to the island than we thought about, and now we're in Lost season 1, and
you know what?
we'd like
We
to
got
have a little
polar
bit of
bears
ARPA
again, and
funding.
that's all that matters.
Very much.
Yeah,
What if
exactly.
there is a polar bear? We don't know where it came from, and it's not the ecotarium.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Also, a very good report, and we appreciate that. The council, I would say that to me, two of the items that appear to be items that are not on here, or if they're on here, they're on here. In a
Home
level
ownership.
that, I would
Home ownership.
encourage
He's gonna say home ownership. $100.
administration to look at is something we talked about recently, which
Some
is
sort of
trying to
farm where
have
we
more funds available
harvest
for down
blood
payment
from
assistance.
poor
I
people.
see a city employee down payment
I'd like to
assistance
start one of those
program
mobile
funded
permit.
with the amount of $25,000.
Wait, hold on. He's doing it again.
Cost of housing.
City employee down payment assistance is how he wants to get the money spent.
$5,000 of assistance for down payment isn't going to buy you anything. And
Oh my God.
$25,000 isn't going to help more than 2.5 people probably. I understand it's an attempt to try to get folks some assistance. I just think we have to aggressively pursue more funding if we're going to be serious about creating home ownership opportunities. We talked about on the floor of the council, 39%.
I mean, I know what he's doing, but like the logic of it doesn't stand up. Like, why?
And he's always talking about. He's always trying to talk about Worcester like it's some company. We got to think about your employees, and not as a provider of services for the people who pay taxes into it.
Home ownership is certainly important, and we've got to do a lot better.
Also, if he's like, what city employee lives in Worcester?
Right.
Cops and firefighters? I don't fucking think so.
I'm sorry, Council Rose.
Thank you. Just a quick question. I was just hoping that the manager, through you to the manager, just elaborate a little bit on that. You know, the $5 billion that the state has committed through ARPA funds, and just if you could just speak a little bit to like the timeline and the delicacy around that. We certainly don't want
The
to
nimbleness
sit on our hands and wait to create programs or
He's going to ask to remove the SROs again.
Learning about that, hearing a little bit more about that timeline, given that we could
Listen, Shaun, the boys at the Red Sox need new uniforms, and we need $5 billion for it.
Could also propose funding for, and then we lose out opportunities to use that funding in other places. I hope that isn't a choppy question through you to the manager. Just
Mr. Manager,
hear a little bit more about that.
Mr. Manager.
Through you, Mr.
I mean, I
Chairman,
heard you perfectly, but it was a
the
choppy
legislature's
question.
going through their process.
It was choppy.
Their recommendations on the ARPA funds. The governor had made a set of recommendations. The governor recommended $1 billion of the $4.5 billion to be spent on housing. 50% of that for the creation of affordable housing, and 50% to be spent on home ownership opportunities. So that's the point that I'm trying to make is if the governor got his way, if the legislature agreed with him, that's $1 billion of additional support that would come for both home ownership and affordable housing creation. And that might inform what the city does with our dollars, how much we do, how, are there other programs that we might do? We've recommended in our initial more lead remediation in some of our existing housing stock to allow more units to be healthier, to allow more units to be able to be rented to families.
It's an effective tax break to landlords.
There, maybe the city would want to be more aggressive there.
And if you are under the fucking impression for a second that the rollout of a down payment assistance program is going to be fair and equitable across Worcester citizens, Jesus Christ, do I have another thing to tell you? That is going to everyone's niece and nephew that works in City Hall before that gets to anybody else. That's not helping anybody.
There's very serious money being talked about in the state level support both of these.
It's just about more units. We need more units that are affordable.
Because we've been using federal funds.
That is true.
We certainly could use.
I've been watching these fucks for too fucking long. I've been watching these fucks for too fucking long. They're so full of shit.
On the home ownership.
We need to fire the coach.
Certainly, the federal dollar, the time limit.
Oh yeah, if we spend federal money to get let out of more apartments, we'll have more apartments for people. No, you're just giving it to fucking landlords. Just giving money to landlords.
Because that's the sneaky, like the insidious part about it, is because there is a point that like
Appreciate the explanation.
there's
I
an
was just
issue
gonna
with
say
lead
thank you. That
in the
was,
city
very
that they
helpful.
can't rent
Very complicated.
under federal like Section 8 and things like that to like apartments that need lead remediation. But
yeah,
that's
it's
not
a good idea.
That's not going to happen. Yeah, that's not going to happen. And all you're doing is you're fixing up these apartments for these landlords who will then refuse to take part in Section 8 housing.
Right. Instead of having strong laws that mean if you want to rent a place, it has to be lead remediated.
Yes,
you're going to pay landlords to remediate these places. It's not. Yeah. The net effect of it is not helping anybody get into a cheap, healthy apartment.
But he couches it in this like convenient way to avoid.
It's all part of the same thing. We're going to build 2.5 more affordable housing units and give $20 billion to the landlords to get the lead out when they should be spending that money them fucking selves. That's what they get paid the fucking rents for, is to remediate apartments, make them better, make them livable. You need to use policy and penalties to get landlords to do that shit. You don't give them money to fucking do it.
Money in the hands.
It's so fucking backwards, dude. Like
as we've already done. I think
God, I get so fucking mad at Ed Augustus because he's so slick about it. He's such a slick little makes.
That's what we're going to need to kind of stem the tide, and also, supportive services.
This saucy little bastard.
He's just like, oh, I know more than you, and just this is the responsible thing to do, and like everything you propose is fucking Republican ass bullshit. It's horrible.
We could get a report as these protections
Fuck Ed Augustus
for COVID slowly dwindle away. If we can get maybe a more
anyway,
more timely or a more frequent, I guess.
It's infuriating. I mean, it's you can't.
And we are with our.
I mean, they're counting on people not to pay attention to this stuff. That's what
services
in general. The whole game is counting on people not paying attention. So you make it hard to access.
My
comments. You use language that's really hard to fucking understand.
And then you dole out small favors to people that and will get votes out for. I mean, there's a reason why District 5 and District 1 are the only districts in town that vote.
Exactly,
they're not paying attention.
No, it's like Maureen Benendez, my cousin, and she got my niece a job at South High. I'm gonna vote for everyone that likes her. That's exactly how it fucking works. It's everything they say is irrelevant. Yeah, it's the townie networks.
I think we could do a lot.
And that's
amount of home ownership.
It's politics at large. But when you get into the fact that like
I understand
a relatively small city full of people that all know each other.
It's just way easier to see it.
Home ownership that's going to take the amount of people that need affordable housing off the waiting list. But what I am suggesting is for every opportunity you get to give somebody to own their own home, it's one less person on the waiting list and one turn quicker for the person that is on the waiting list to actually get into housing.
Also, the whole thing about home ownership benefiting people that like are on the lower end of the economic spectrum is you're just going to force first-time home buyers by giving them like a little bit of down payment assistance into a mortgage they can't afford, which is going to ruin your life way more than a rent you can't afford. You lock yourself into a mortgage that you can't afford, and you ruin your entire fucking life. You lock yourself into a rent you can't afford, and you just have a hard year. And you can get out of it. A mortgage ruins your life. You have like a fucking black star on you of a creditor demerit.
We had a whole recession about this.
We had a whole recession about this. Home ownership is not the way to get out of the affordable housing crisis because the home values are fucking out of control. Housing is the most annoying fucking thing. And just like Worcester's City Hall's complete refusal to admit it's a problem.
Like everything that happened regarding COVID.
God.
The issue.
I'm gonna go piss on City Hall later.
To look at the issue of health inequity.
Sean's dogs
that
just
really
did.
Only for people who
good.
have been working in the health field, because the reality is that a lot of us have been talking about the issue of inequity for a long time regarding the health field and how that actually has produced significant consequence. Now, as you look at, for example, what happened in many communities when you saw the GI Bill, yeah, it was great. But what was happening when the GI Bill came is that veterans of color that couldn't purchase in predominantly white areas because they weren't allowed. And then areas that they could make purchase, they couldn't make the purchase because it was redlined, so banks weren't giving the loan. So we want to make sure that we're having this specific conversation as we're moving this forward, because if
All right,
not,
so
we're going to say, we're going to.
I love that Sarai always brings it back to equity being necessary when she talks.
Thank you. So send that to ED.
But she never really
Councilor Bergman
does anything about it.
Gloria,
Yes.
Councilor King.
Yes.
She just says it should be equitable,
Councilor Rivera.
Yes.
but
Councilor Rose.
doesn't use her political
Rosen.
capital
Yes.
to
Councilor Russell.
force the
Yes.
city to
Councilor
do
Schmidt.
more
Yes.
equitable
Councilor Wally.
things.
Yes. And Mayor Petty.
She just says that it should be
Okay, so
equitable.
we'll go back to 12B.
It's kind of
I often think that there's
Treasury communication relative to
a
the,
failure of
local
imagination
session, October
when
5th, relative
it comes
the
to
Worcester interfaith versus the
city
of
councilors.
Worcester in the
They
United States
are
District Court.
understandably worried about
Reads as
keeping
follows.
their
After review and
position,
discussion of the
but
October
the
5th
way that they
executive
lean
session, those
towards
documents that would
the
prefer to be
council to
in
keep
performance
their
of the Federal
position
Voting
as
Rights
opposed to
Act.
their
The
voters,
does hereby decide
like
to move the discussion to an open
it's
session.
hard.
The city
It's
council for
it's
further
hard to get
discussion
votes in this
at the
city. I
October
understand
12th
that it's
meeting.
hard to get people to turn
And
out,
passes
but
the 3 items that we voted
you
on.
could stay in.
Okay, so
Like if you have loyal voters who you
right,
like take action for,
right. But like, and like I do like Sarai, but
yeah, me too. I do too.
What you're seeing there when she says the right things but never seems to like really propose anything that would move the city in that direction is that like that's kind of like just big Democrat brain.
Thank you, Madam
and
Chair.
she's very much like within the party apparatus, and that's where her support comes from, and that's where she's looking for her support is within the party apparatus. So she's learning how to say the right things and be the right looking and sounding candidate. But unlike King, she would never drag the mayor over on that issue for forever because her and the mayor work together. They're part of the same party
I
apparatus.
got some questions before we get to that part. I think it's the right thing to do. And it's a responsible thing to do at this time. It's to avoid it's also to avoid costly litigation and divisiveness here in the city of Worcester.
See, you know what the real crime is? Dan Rassicot writes the best comments for this guy. And then he just can't fucking read them.
Last several years, we have a ways to go.
Like his chief of staff is a great writer.
An incredible writer.
Yeah, he just can't read them out loud.
And I think this sends a good message to the brown black community.
I really do think if we could get Joe Petty some diction lessons, we could have a really great production of Death of a Salesman in this city. I really think that.
Wow.
And committed to this. And
that would be
He's got the strongest Willie Loman energy of anyone I've ever met in my life.
Implementing the Worcester Home Rule Charter so as to change the electoral process for elected members of the Worcester School Committee, and we'll do so through the Home Rule petition.
Hold on, I'm lost.
Process to choose a new electoral process.
What is he talking about? I thought we were on housing.
One of the reasons that we didn't concede this, we were in violation of the Voting Rights Act. However, we thought this would be resolved without the expense of protracted, costly, and potentially divisive.
Holy shit. Okay, going back to the what the fuck territory.
This year, we began.
They're now talking about a petition accompanying an order that Christian King held that everyone was fucking confused about and didn't want to vote on. And now Joe Petty's trying to get him to vote on the petition.
But we started that process in July, and we right up to October 5th of last week.
What the fuck? What the fuck are they doing?
And that's what we came up. And during the process, we had discussions. I know our attorney talked to their attorney, and this is the three that we came up with after discussions with the other side. So I do have a couple questions to the city solicitor. Other jurisdictions, have they done this as far as have been sued, or I know City of Lowell has, and I think there's some other districts who have been served here in the city of Worcester.
So why are you asking?
Through the chair, the Lawyers for Civil Rights organization, which was the main impetus to bring the suit in Lowell, filed the suit with us. They've also reached out to 3 other communities with what they call demand letters. They didn't file suit. They reached out to the city of Everett, the city of Revere, and the city of Haverhill. Everett has already had passed a special act adopting, amending their charter. They have chosen to, or that chosen, they change both their city council and school committee in that instance. Revere is working on something, but I haven't been able to get any information yet, details on what.
All right. So they're still talking about going to district school committee counselors?
Was given a demand letter in
But I
July.
don't know what agenda item they're referencing here. I really don't.
I can't
non-binding
find it.
question on the ballot.
It's not on the agenda. There was some vague reference earlier about a petition.
But the indications
Like,
are that
like a resolution accompanying the order, right? But
council there intends to make a change. That's the information I've been given. And the other question I had was, and I read the COO consent decree. What I found interesting was, and this is what we talked about in executive session a little bit, was the cohesiveness of 2 groups. In Lowell, there's probably another different minority groups in Lowell besides Hispanics and Asians, but they chose those 2 groups who brought the lawsuit. In Worcester, it's the African American community and the Hispanic community here in the city of Worcester. Can you comment on that and what the reason for that is?
Through the chair to resolve or to approve a Section 2 violation, you look at a minority group, singly or combined, and it's a group that is of sufficient size and geographically compact, and that they are politically cohesive, that they tend to vote similarly, support the same candidates. So here in Worcester, the 2 plaintiffs are the Black community and Latino community, that they are saying that they are cohesive, they're politically cohesive, and there is enough population geographically compact to create what we've talked about to solve this, to resolve this lawsuit would be 2 majority minority districts that would give them a better opportunity. They allege to elect representatives of their choice.
It's my understanding, and I think both parties agree, our expert and their expert agree that the 5 district councilors for city council.
Now, I'm just a simple country lawyer, but these school districts.
We've hired Professor Nate Pursley from Stanford University's nationally renowned redistricting and voting rights law. He's looked at it and said that you cannot do this to majority minority districts of voter age residents. It has to be voter.
Wow, what a good comment. Put that up.
That is great, Riley.
Citizen voting age residents. I'm sorry. You cannot get
wow, I'm screenshotting that.
2 majority minority districts without creating at least 6 districts. So there's infinite number of options, but they just keep going up with more and more districts. But 6 would be the minimum to get 2 majority minority districts that would satisfy the case, the lawsuit.
And it's not
so all of this sort of vague posturing and discussion of this, and I still have no idea, and I'm pretty good at following these, how they came back to this discussion. Suggests that it suggests to me that there's a lot of internal division that they are not talking about.
Resolved by using a population of non-white voters. So here,
and if we had more reporters in the city,
they have their 2
probably know about it.
That they want majority.
But there's only like me and Steve Foskett right now. So.
Black and Latino.
Got to pick your battles, you know.
Yeah.
And so my intention is to put these 3 motions in front of the consent decree in front of the council tonight, and then send it to the committee, MO committee.
Okay. Can anybody watching or anybody
for I think November 30th
looking at the fucking agenda tell me what consent decree they're talking about?
Through the chair, ideally, what we'd like to see happen.
Yeah, if anybody, let's crowdsource this. Everybody take.
Can we crowdsource? Like, I'm pretty good at reading these agendas. I'm trying to find this consent decree.
The process of going through the 3 different options. getting comment.
I can't find it.
Making a decision by November.
It's not in there.
But by at least
It's not
filing
in there.
essentially tonight or passing it tonight gives us some credibility, and if something should happen, that we could go back to. Meaning that, say if someone comes up with a brilliant idea that we didn't think of, we always can go back to them later and say, this is a fourth idea that came up.
Through the chair, there can be further discussions as we go forward on those three options in the consent decree, yes.
Okay. So there's an option to,
All right.
to review after the public hearings. And also I noticed, some of the options have 7 districts, some have 6 districts for school committee, and the city council is 5 districts.
I'm going to text a couple people that I know
Somebody
that
else to
are
look
smarter
at
than
the
I
city
am.
council, not tonight, but discussion-wise, if we want to, 6 different councils to match, to make sure it's the city clerk with ease could implement these type of changes.
Yeah, I mean, but it should, if it was tabled or anything like that, then it should be in this agenda, and it's not even
authorize the city
under there.
solicitor to execute the consent decree containing the following 3 electoral system options. So option 1 would be a single member district system for electing all members of the school committee. It would be all district school committee members with no at-large seats. It's called the single member system. Under any such single member system, there should be a total of 6 single member Worcester school committee districts, including 2 majority minority districts based on the voting age population of the Hispanic, Latino, and Black residents in the mayor as the chair. The second one is a hybrid option, a hybrid system that combines single member districts based seats with 1 at-large seat. So we have 6 districts, 1 at-large seat. Under the hybrid system, the Worcester School Committee should be comprised of 7 single member district-based seats, including 2 majority-minority districts, based on citizen voting age of Hispanic, Latinos.
The sheer lack of context here
have 1 at-large seat
for a listener who would want to like understand what's going on here. I've been following Worcester City Council for like
under the hybrid system,
5 years now.
Shall be comprised of at least 6.
I have no idea what the point of this is.
Including 2 majority minority.
I have no idea.
Based on citizen voting
And imagine being just a concerned citizen with no context or contacts.
That would be my motion that I put forth tonight.
Hold on.
What do you do?
He made a motion. Hold on.
Again, I think this is an important vote. It sends a good signal to the community, and I think it's just a responsible thing to do. Thank you.
So he just motioned to support this resolution.
So I know I haven't been part of the inner conversations, but I just want to say I'm actually shocked that we're still having this conversation. So around me, we have 5 district councilors. And I would think that if anything, one of the things that's really important to understand is that why that happened, right? To make sure that we had geographical representation, not just diversity regarding ethnic and race. Now, also, back in March 23rd, we had, as the mayor pointed out, we had an 8-2 vote. So why you fast forward and it's October and we're still kind of going back and forth really, really surprises me.
Yeah, put Saints of Possums up there. Yes, right, because
really important.
we're, as the public, jumping into a conversation that is in like its 5th hour, and we're listening to hours 4 and 5 of it. We didn't listen to hours 1, 2, and 3. We have no frame of reference for this.
But if we don't actually put it into action, it's just words, emptiness.
Like,
and that's the struggle that we in communities of color have had to deal with for many years. It makes sense when you look at this situation, and it's I have been
the only person who's made sense for this entire thing is when Christian King went, "I'm confused," right? Because
why? Because
like I like to think that I know about this stuff.
We weren't allowed to even read,
and I have no idea.
Taken to school, especially in the indigenous community, we were put in residential schools, right? Like there's so many things in regards that we weren't allowed to do, and education is also a really big forefront to be able to have the opportunity to really progress and to have a level of social and educational equity, to have mobility in many aspects. So this is another thing that's important. So when we look at this, if we look at the current census data, I mean, we're looking at 51%. We have 105, almost 106 of communities of color out of 2006 in general. So you're looking at pretty much over 50% of the populations is communities of color, predominantly among the Latino and African American community here, and 50% in the Asian community. Now, we've seen a huge jump, right? We've seen this in 14% in our census. So when we look at this, if we, as a district counselor, I would be a hypocrite to say that I don't think that this is a good thing, because one of the reasons I stand before you today in this seat representing a community is because at one point there was a challenge to be able to have district counselors within. So you look at the fact that we don't have to have that, not just for ethnicity, for diversity of ethnic and race, but geographical. If you look at the school committee, it is an all-white body. When I first came along, our whole governmental, like it was a whole all-white governmental delegation in a city like this. Why does this matter? Then we should say, as a woman, that also makes a lot of sense too. I had an honor privilege to talk to some
yes,
women that were
they are
first
generally talking about the subject matter of 12A and 12B on the agenda.
Right now, school committee, not only is it not representative of what our city looks like, but it's also not representative.
They're not.
Of geographic.
They're talking about some sort of resolution
diversified throughout the
supporting the move to district
really important
school
issues.
committee members.
Why
that
is
is
this
not
a good idea?
on the
Let's look
agenda.
at this. Not only is it socially, we brought up the social implications, but economically, this is also a really good situation. Why we should do this? As we know, good schools help us to have good neighborhoods. When we look at real estate, and some of the realtors here can talk about more, a lot of times people look at the issue of schools. One of the reasons I purchased the house of where I purchased is because I wanted my kids to be able to go to University Park campus. That was like, it was either there or it was going to be a private school, because as raising men of color, I knew the challenge that it was going to take. The school that it had some issues of inequity, and thank God for the partnership that Clark has. And because of that, my son is one of the youngest neuroscience researchers at Stanford University. But that goes back to the partnership that Clark has, and because of the classes that he was able to take.
Good plug for her son.
At Clark, with Clark students.
Yeah, right.
Because his school didn't have the adequate lab. It does now, but didn't have the adequate lab to be able to
That's just like a classic politician thing.
He needed to compete to the schools that he wanted to compete for, because he had a long-term goal. So as you look, there's always issues of inequity when we look at.
I mean, the thing, it's weird. Like,
how do we not make this right? And you
know, she's saying stuff that's totally like, yeah, of course. But also, when you look at it in the context of this city council, it's like this is still like an out there thing for her to say, as compared to other people.
The reality is, Mr. Chairman,
Right. Everything she's saying is totally fine
regarding the shift of the superintendent,
and dead on. But
who was asking for it before?
Given the questions that Councilor King had,
communities of color
and wanted to delay this vote based on the questions, and the questions seem like they're sort of about some sketchy redistricting shit.
Concerns,
like
data.
Her pulling like the identity politics moral high ground card.
One thing when you are trying to raise your child to make
right
sure
now,
they succeed, but they can't, but they're already fighting against the system, right? And
seems weird, but she may have just had the speech prepared and she's just
everyday
going through it.
But now you're pushing.
This is a huge clusterfuck. I gotta say, this is an unprecedented clusterfuck for
so I asked, like, I really
that I've seen.
This is really great for us, though, for our first
why
episode.
We're still having this conversation.
Yeah, right.
And would really feel that
TV.
we as a council, like the mayor
like,
said,
what the fuck are they? I'm
do
texting
right,
people like,
is socially a good thing?
Do you know what's happening? Right.
We want to make sure that, you know, we may say that it may not be an easy process, but also sit down in a room full of people that have had to deal with the system, a very biased system, and know that we have to maneuver difficult process every day. And so I would ask this council that we We have been having conversations. For many, these are new conversations, and that's okay. I appreciate that. At some point, you're having the conversation now. But for many of us, this is what we've had to deal with because we've had no other option. People say, oh, she's always talking about race. Why? Because I have no option. I wish I didn't have to have that discussion. I wish that people would rise instead of just, communities of color, to be able to talk about the issue of inequity. But I know this is an opportunity for us to be able to move forward, do the right thing. As many years ago, many of us, as we sit in this district council seat because someone did the right thing. So let's do the right thing once again. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? We can vote then.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Rose.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a couple questions for the city solicitor, and I know the answers to these questions, but I think it's important that we help the public understand, how we got here and how this process took place.
Shaun, you got to do it like Christian does it and pretend you don't know.
Somebody must have texted him.
Any background on it is something that I think we owe to them.
I wonder.
So if I may, the city solicitor will indulge me with a few questions. I would appreciate that. I'll be brief.
Mr. Solicitor?
I'm ready for the questions.
Okay, he's ready, Mr. Rose.
Okay, so through the chair to the city solicitor, how did we get to this place where we have this consent decree and we're looking at these three options? Like, what was the catalyst for this lawsuit or this consent decree?
Through the chair, the catalyst for the lawsuit, as I said earlier, was the plaintiffs coming forward and saying that their vote is diluted, that they don't have an equal opportunity to elect candidates of their choice. So that was basically the gravamen of the complaint. The council then took a vote to not contest it and to enter into settlement discussions. The consent decree is the vehicle to settle the lawsuit. It spells out a number of different things. Most importantly, the new electoral process that would be chosen. That gets approved by the court. The court then has jurisdiction over the consent decree as we move forward to implement the changes.
Through the chair to the city solicitor, is there much precedent in fighting and winning a lawsuit like this?
Because we early on decided we would settle it, I've not done a lot of research across the country as to how these suits are or how frequent they are. In speaking with Professor Pursley, he did think that what we were doing was the right thing. It would be very difficult to prove this outcome in our favor.
Got it. And so then two more just quick questions. Someone might ask, oh, well, why can't these districts all just be comparable to, districts, the 5 districts that we currently have? If you wouldn't mind just touching on that through the chair to the solicitor.
Okay, that's a good question. This is a good question.
Counselor, we pushed, our department, we pushed to try to use the 5 existing council districts. But when the census data came in, the data does not support creating 2 majority-minority districts out of the 5 council districts. Again, using the citizen voting age residents population.
So is it fair to say that through the chair to the solicitor, is it fair to say that our 2 options to capture that are, 6 districts or 7 districts as identified in this, the options that were given to us?
Through the chair of the council, yes, the minimum amount of districts we need to create to get the 2 majority-minority districts would be 6. We could go up from there, but we can't go down.
Thank you. And I appreciate you indulging my questions, Mr. Trainer. I would just echo the sentiments of my colleague. I think that this is a real opportunity, a tremendous opportunity for us to continue the momentum of moving our city forward as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion. I fully support this moving forward, and I look forward to the rich and exciting conversation from our community members as this enters into Municipal Operations Committee and we get talking more about it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is the thing that makes it so hard for the regular person to just come in and watch these meetings is they do not make it easy to follow it all.
Some questions to the administration.
Okay, let's listen to Christian because he's been the only
300 years old soon,
one that.
Is that right? We're approaching our 300th birthday. I stand before you as the first Black man ever elected citywide. We've never had a Black man or a Latino man elected to the school committee. We've had a lot of challenges. When I was elected in 2016, I was the first Black man elected since 1936. And, you know, taking a good hard look at this,
It's kind of a stunning
reminds
fact.
us of additional benefits of moving to additional districts. One of which I'm going to ask through the chair to the administration, to the solicitor. It's my understanding that when we kind of look and map out over the last 10 years or so or more, where our school committee representation comes from, is pretty on a segregated side of the city. So I guess the question through the chair to the solicitor is, what does that look like when you map it out? Through the chair.
Mr. Solicitor?
Through the chair, excuse me, through the chair to the counselor. I know we supplied maps to the counselors showing where the candidates resided in the 2017 election, the 2019 election of the school committee. I think one of the elections, it was pretty balanced, but one election was mostly to the west side.
Okay. Thank you. And that's another benefit, you know, of representation. You know, if you look at our current 5 districts, I don't believe that there's representations from every district on the school committee. In addition to that, we heard that this is the minority majority districts will be those of voting eligibility in the Black and Latino community. One of the concerns that we talked a little bit earlier was split districts and the other matter that we were previously discussing. And I've heard the mayor say that
yes,
perhaps the city council may have to, or it may be beneficial to mirror whatever we do with the school committee. I just had a question through the chair to the clerk. If you could talk a little bit about how all of this plays out with what we were talking about earlier when we were moving to a resolution regarding what's going on with the state and the redistricting, specifically as it relates to split districts.
Mr. Clerk?
Through the chair to the council. So at this point, I don't have all the Black data. Again, you know, there has to be a public process regarding this, but as the charter stands, you have 5 city council districts. You're going to have 60 precincts, and you're going to, you know, possibly have 6 or 7 school committee districts. And some of those city council districts will have to be cut based on the population of Hispanics and, you know, Black population based on the census data. And apparently, as the solicitor stated, voting age population. So it could possibly mean that some of those precincts, and for example, in District 2, District 4, District 3, because that's where the heavier concentration of, you know, the minority population are, based on my information from the Census 2020 data, will be probably split in half to accommodate, you know, part of the precinct. You have a large Hispanic and Black population, so that precinct will be cut in half to be put together with another precinct. Again, I can draw the maps because I'm not the expert here, but there could possibly be more split precincts. Correct.
Thank you. If we could get a report back on split precincts, it repeatedly comes up as an item of confusion, like a report specifically on that. It's my understanding through the chair that when you have a split district, if, for example, my colleague here and I are in a split district, when we go in, our ballots are different, but they're obviously specific to us. So I just want to have an understanding where this confusion lay. So if we can get a report.
Okay, that's what this whole thing is about. That's the point of contention right here.
There's split
is
districts
the district splitting that would have to happen to make this happen, which seems to be forced
really just
by
educating our folks and ramping up
just
some
nuances of state law and the charters, that there would have to
operations of
be
election.
some split districts where you vote for your
We know that
District
there's no
5 city
guarantees in
councilor,
life.
or
We
your
know that.
District
We know
6
that
school
there's no
committee member.
guarantee,
And
the result.
obviously, it makes something that should be as easy as possible even
we
more
also
confusing.
know.
So is that
it
the solution? Do we split the city council districts as well?
For the Black,
Do we-
Latino.
That might be what he's getting at, but if he's saying that,
I think
then
that's something that we should support. My question to the chair, to the
That's
solicitor is,
wild.
That's wild. That's
earlier,
a
some
bold position.
suggestions about additional options.
Additional
are we in
options.
a position where we are able to move forward that way, or we have some sort of commitment to the plaintiff in regards to these three options that are before us.
Mr. Solicitor?
Through the chair to the counselor, if we had other options, we could put them on the table. We've not come up with anything else that was viable. We have discussed previously the ranked choice voting, and that was not chosen by this council. The clerk has informed us that the difficulty of doing that. He'd have to buy separate another set of machines to count those ballots, as opposed to the other elected offices that do not have ranked choice voting. So we dismissed consideration of the ranked choice proportional voting right out of the gate. And these were in our opinion, the options that did the least amount of harm.
Okay. And earlier
Harm
you had
to
some
what?
testimony about STV or SRV voting. Are you familiar with that at all?
Candy Merrill
The ranked
Carlson.
choice voting.
That's the ranked choice voting.
Number your.
He means the status quo, like harm
yes.
to the way
And that
things
was
operate
considered.
now.
Correct.
We discussed that in one executive session. Everyone pretty much by and large said that we're going to pursue that.
Thank you. You know, one of the concerns that we've heard is that, you know, you could be living in a district where perhaps there's a school in my district counselors in my district, but in district, say it's District 1, District 2, my children go to the school in District 1. And there was some concern about that, the representation being out of district. You know, my opinion on that is that doesn't hold much water, given the fact that currently we have a number of folks on that school committee who are out of district. Do we have an understanding about currently how many folks are living in the actual physical district of the schools? So we have, you know, let's just take the high schools, for example, North, South, Doherty, Burncoat, you know, Maine South. Do we have representation from District 4 anywhere on the school committee through the chair? Clerk?
I would say, Mr. Clerk, I would say
no. You know, I think this is a great measure. As I mentioned, there's been a lot of recently. I stand with.
That was smart. See, Christian King's smart. He acts like he doesn't understand. He phrases everything as a question, but it's always a point. It's not a question.
Yes.
A Latino who served at large in the history of the city.
He should be a lawyer.
Yeah,
social work
shit. So I do believe
Why
we're
isn't he
going
a
to have a
lawyer?
more diverse school committee moving forward. I think that's a great potentiality here, but it doesn't speak to the last 300 years. And I support this. My last question to the chair, just for the public, so they can understand the impact of the additional at-large seats. So we have one option that's, and this isn't to get into the weeds, but really quickly, one option with the 6 districts and the mayor, and the other one has at-large in the mayor and 2 at-large in the mayor. What's the concern about having more at-large counselors as it relates to minority majority districts through the chair?
you're into your second 5 minutes, Mr. Solicitor.
Through the chair to the counselor, the addition of the at-large office holders doesn't affect the majority minority districts. They're going to be created. They'll be there. There'll be 2 out of 6 or 2 out of 7.
Okay, so if we went to 5 at large, how would that impact things through the chair?
Through the chair to the counselor, I mean, when you start adding more at large, you're diluting the impact of the district-based members.
That was I was trying to get at. Thank you for clarifying that. I didn't ask the question the correct way. You know, we know that historically where those at-large representations have come from, and you know, again, there's no guarantees in life. There's no guarantee this will result in the diversity we looked for. But what I do believe it will do, I do believe that this will increase civic participation with the increase in districts and increase in opportunities and candidacy and elections. And I think that'll have a ripple effect as well. And I do support the idea of us exploring if we should be congruent as a council in terms of our construction.
That's what he's been getting at this whole time.
Committee
If you want
structure,
7
feedback,
district school committee members, why
results,
wouldn't you have
and
7 district
confusion. We don't want our
counselors?
folks confused. We certainly want to do the best that we can in terms of representation and making folks have great opportunities to vote and to participate in our democratic process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Huh? No motion though.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That's probably smart though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Not
I
yet.
said previously,
Yeah.
Let that fester for a while.
Yeah.
The number of people that voted on this item was true. It was an 8-2 vote. I was one of the 2 votes that voted, but it wasn't a vote against the item. It was a vote against settling the item at this stage. And I have several reasons for feeling that way, and some of the questions I think I'm about to ask may highlight some of those reasons, and we'll summarize them at the end. So through the chair, if I may, to the
Mo Bergman is fucking awful, dude.
He looks exactly like Danny DeVito's character from Space Jam.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, the typical method of changing the setup of an election.
I didn't vote against this equity measure.
Correct.
I voted against this
Chair, I
equity
think
measure
there's
the
as
way
many
it was
special
written.
act changes if there are charter
Okay,
commission.
yeah.
established.
Big lawyer brain right
That's
there.
what we need to do.
Huge ass lawyer
Charter
brain.
change through the commission level.
You voted
Many,
against
many
it.
communities use
Yeah.
the special
Dickhead.
act with the
Fucking
legislature.
dickhead.
But the city of Worcester historically has used a charter change to change the makeup of the council. Isn't that correct?
I'm only aware of the charter commission in the 80s.
Okay. You're not aware of anything since then, correct?
Through the chair, no.
There hasn't been a charter change since the 80s, Mo Bergman.
And, with respect to charter change, that would involve.
Fucking, what is this, Law and Order?
Through the chair, through a commission or through special act?
Commission.
Commission, they hold public hearings. It usually takes about a year. They come back with a.
Okay, so
it takes a long process because you have to put people on the ballot to elect to the commission that forms the commission. Then they do their work.
So there would be a year or so of citizens' input if this had gone through the charter route. To the best of your knowledge, is that correct? Through the chair?
To the chair, it could be a year, it could be less, depends on how quickly any particular charter commission would.
It could be more.
Trying to find
Through the chair, it could be more too. It's around
who the last
And with
black
respect
city
to the
councilor
process we're
was
going through
in
now,
1936
if this were
that
voted
Christian
on
King
tonight with
referenced, and I
particular,
can't find a reference to it so far. But I
vote in the
found one
affirmative,
for
there was
the
some
first
comment
black
made earlier that would come
city
back
councilor.
to the council for public.
When was that?
Through the chair.
I dropped
Could
in
you
the
tell us
chat.
the
He
amount of,
was
weeks we would have for
elected in
public input on this important item?
1904.
Through
It
the
said.
chair, as it stands now, we have in the draft.
And he
consent
died
decree
in
that
34.
the council will make a decision on
1903. He served for
choosing a new
1903 and
process for
1904.
School committee no later than November 30th.
So that's this
but
November.
an
30th.
interesting
November 30th, 2021.
tidbit
So if
there.
this
I
was
dropped a
voted
link
on
in the
tonight,
chat
it
if
would
anybody
come
wants
back
to
to
check
us
it
that
out.
we would
George
have a
Alfred
council
Busby.
meeting on election day, November 2nd. So there would be, 4 council meetings to discuss this? Does that sound about right? Maybe 6? Somewhere between
Through
4
the
to
chair
6.
sounds about right.
Okay.
I mean, those terms, recall also, those terms were put in place back in July,
Yeah, no.
June, so.
I understand. And through the chair, is it fair to say too that a case like this could be settled at any time, as opposed to being settled at the time it's being settled now, at the beginning stages of the lawsuit?
Through the chair, I mean, it's difficult to say for certainty because you need the other party, you need two sides to settle. So, but like any legal proceeding, you can settle right up to the day you're going in for a hearing or the trial. So,
And even when the jury's in the box. as
even
they
when the
say.
jury's in the box, yes.
And is it also fair to say that these are allegations? Nothing's been proven to us yet. Is that correct? Through the chair?
Through the chair, these are allegations in the complaint that that this body took a vote not to contest.
Yo, this is really
I
bad.
understand that. And the allegations include an allegation that I'm just reading one of the paragraphs from the lawsuit, that Worcester's predominantly white majority electorate effectively votes as a bloc. Has there been any discovery in which information like that has been shared with the city as far as the city of Worcester's white electorate voting as a bloc?
Chair to the council. I don't have it.
Can you explain through the chair what that means, as far as your understanding of what that voting as a bloc means?
Through the chair, it means predominantly the white.
Oh, what a fucking asshole.
All vote for the same candidates and they don't support minority candidates.
And is it also fair to say that the suggested relief is to create 1 or 2 majority-minority districts in which the intent would be that the minority community would vote as a block.
Through the chair of the council, that's correct. Or at
So-
least, yes, but that they do vote cohesively, and that the creation of these two majority-minority districts would increase their chances of voting in candidates of their choice.
Okay, so could you explain to me and perhaps the council why the allegation is it's illegal for one group to vote as a block, but the suggestion for the solution is for another group to vote as a block?
Through the chair.
Because of representation.
A number of federal cases that have found that putting minorities
Good
together-
fucking Lord, Mo Bergman.
All right,
piece
all
of
right.
shit.
We need to
raise
time.
their
I need to timestamp
ability,
this.
uh,
He said that at
the vote
8:46.
they can represent.
This meeting
represent candidates of their choice is
started
constitutional.
at
But when the majority white vote
6:30.
dilutes the voting power
Okay.
of minorities, that runs afoul of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act.
So in order through the chair to create a majority-minority district that would have.
That was pretty fucking egregious.
Percent of a minority voting age population versus a 49% minority dominance. Is that correct?
Through the chair.
So 51% would be minority community, 49% would be non-minority community. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that's correct.
And that's the intended solution that's being discussed with the chair. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that's correct.
One of the questions I had regarding that solution, and one of the reasons why I have difficulty at this time supporting this, is does that solution take into consideration what percentage of each group votes?
Excuse me, can you repeat that?
Does that solution through the chair take into consideration, does the 51% minority population vote in the same percentage the 49% non-minority population would vote? Does that take that into consideration?
Through the chair, no, it's the number.
Segregationist overtones.
Of resident voting age, citizen voting age. Resident.
This is really wild. This is remarkable.
Non-minority
This is
voters voted in higher numbers than the percentage of minority voters, that 51-49% may be totally ineffective.
Through the chair, I'm not going to weigh in on speculation like
That's
that.
fine. Fair enough.
How does he feel comfortable saying this shit?
I thought I heard something.
Because he knows
with
that
respect-
this is going to score him points with
respect, to the changing population.
who
of
he's trying to
Worcester,
score points with.
if I recall the numbers
he's
correctly,
a
the last
fucking
census,
villain.
for this census, there's been an increase.
God,
in
he's like
population
better
of
at
about
it than
35,000
Donna
people.
Collier or Kate Toomey ever could be.
I
Like,
understand that in excess of 20,000.
Let's go with that number. That means in a decade's period of time, there's several thousand people every year that move into the city if we continue that trend through the chair. Is that correct?
Through the chair.
Wow, is he delving into a white
So we
replacement
would not know
rhetoric?
if we enacted this solution.
pretty close. Pretty
what
close.
the populations in those minority and majority districts would be from year to year.
Pretty wild shit for
Not
anybody to
only
say.
51,
It is, I think, important to point out that Mo Bergman is a
There's no
Jewish man.
guarantee. The guarantee
Right,
is that we
right.
create them at the outset. And then the next census, it would be changed if the numbers and the data required the district.
Good fucking God, Mo.
And have you seen any, I know, could you just describe what the process of discovery is in a lawsuit?
It does sound like that's a
I
concern of
understand that
his.
Very little has been done in
Oh,
this.
Guillermo, put that comment up there.
The next step will begin the discovery
Yeah.
process. They have started with the first production of documents. We were served on Wednesday. All requests for production of documents and admissions must be served by October 29th, according to the scheduling order from the court. All depositions, other than expert depositions, need to be completed by January 31st of 2022. Fact discovery, the final deadline, other than expert discovery, will be January 31st, 2022. And then through next year, you go through the expert depositions, expert analysis.
So it'd be fair to say that during that time period, some of the allegations that have been made, evidence could be presented to the city to prove those allegations, but that has yet to occur. Is that fair to say?
If we were to go down that path, that would be the intent, the object of the discovery period.
Okay, thank you. I just have one last question to the city clerk.
Wait, that's
to our city clerk, based upon
he's insinuating that
information
there's no
received
evidence for this, but
to these
the
possible
city
solutions to to the lawsuit.
Decided not to fight the lawsuit before it ever got to discovery period.
Would it be
So
fair
he's
to
he's
say
he's
that
counting
some of
on
the districts
people
that would be
not
created as new
understanding
districts
the
for
process
school
of a civil
committee,
lawsuit
there would be
and just
schools
insinuating
outside
that
of the
there's no
voting
fucking
area that would be
evidence.
family
And
members.
But
knowing that
it never
there's
got.
In
no,
other words, they'd be
yeah,
voting for a
knowing that
knowing
it's
there's-
never going to come out.
to
Yeah.
represent
Yeah.
their district, even though the school may be outside
Ugh,
of that district.
that's. And I hate
Through
this
the chair
guy.
to the council, at this point, this material that was presented in executive session, that is correct. But I don't have, the block
No, I
data. I
understand.
don't have all the information in front of us to study.
Thank you. I just want to follow up with a couple comments. If these items can be proven, you can count me in on a vote to change the system in any of the options that have been suggested. But to me, it's premature to assume these have been proven. And I would say, I separate feelings from facts. Maybe I do that because I'm a lawyer. I understand there's messages that could be sent by jumping on board and making decisions like this. But
Oh
I think there's also
man.
a side to the message. One of the messages.
I hope every Oppo team for
sent
every
out
city
here is that
councilor in the at-large
only
race is
people of
watching
a
this
certain
right
color
now.
can represent other people of a certain color. A few years ago, in the town of Framingham, which is now the city of Framingham, almost a 70% population of people that are Caucasian elected a black mayor. Should she not be there because she only represents 30% of the population? Of course she should be there. She was elected democratically. I think it's a bad message to say that only people of certain color can represent others. But if the case is that there's
That's not
collusion
the-
and that's proven, count me in on the solution. But I think the solution itself is problematic because we're counting on people to vote in equal numbers, and we know that does not happen. We're also counting on the populations to say the same, and we know that does not happen either. I think one of the worst things we can do is pretend we're giving a solution when we're really not. I understand there are no guarantees, but I also know that this case is in the early stages, and again, I prefer facts over feelings. That's one of the reasons why I did not vote to support this initially, and nothing I've heard tonight yet has changed my opinion on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Council Russell?
Oh boy. Russell means well, but he's
Chairman,
not.
Guess I'll show my age a little bit tonight. I'll talk about the days of the Charter Commission. And when I was a young person in the
Yeah,
chamber,
for real, Mo Ben Shapiro Bergman.
when the Charter Commission met, I remember how proud I was of East Side representation and the East Side representatives that were on that commission: Billy Glodis, Dick Monafiglio, and Paul Pizzella. And I know that because of their work on that Charter
Those comments were
and because of the work of the entire
pretty fucking
Charter
tough.
Commission and the willingness to compromise, that
That
folks
wouldn't
like you
fly
were
to
able
normal
sit in
city.
their seat.
Yeah.
I have the election.
In normal
results
city,
to
we do
prove
not
it.
live in.
Because in the 80s, I ran for city council at large, and I came nowhere near close. And because of the Charter Commission and because of district representation, folks like myself who are on one side
Such
of
a
the city
strong desire to be
have more of
Quaker
an
Oats right
opportunity
now,
to
and I
be
can't
heard.
figure it out.
And believe me,
I wonder. I wonder.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not afraid to say that it may be time for another Charter Commission. I'm not afraid to say it may be time to look at planning government in general. With our great work of our city manager now, we've proven that you don't need a professional city manager. There's someone sitting in that chair, did a wonderful job over these years, that was a politician. I'm not afraid.
That's actually
let
kind
the
of a
citizens
cute
of the
point
city
that George Russell just
to
made.
be heard on
That's
anything,
a really, really cute point that George Russell just
any
made.
part of it. Make no mistake about
Ed
it.
Augustus is not a professional. He's a politician.
Chairman, I do believe, though, in the item that you put forward this evening, if you would allow it, I believe that there are two separate items there that need to be discussed. One is the items that were brought before sent out of the executive session, and whether they're going to go to committee or not for discussion. And another item is whether we signed the dissent decree, and whether we're authorizing the administration, authorizing the city solicitor to go and to sign that dissent decree. And I would request to you, Mr. Chairman, that maybe we should be separating those two items because they are two separate and distinct items. May I ask a question through you, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Trainer?
Sure, and I think Mayor wasn't clear too, but there are two, you're absolutely right. The one is going to go to the committee, and we're going to vote the consent decree. I think I said that, but maybe I wasn't clear enough.
I just want to be clear
Yeah,
on that.
I
Okay,
got
so
you.
because there are folks, I don't know of anyone on this council that doesn't want to see change. I don't know of anyone on this council that
know a
doesn't
few.
want to see people represented and people part of the process.
we just heard one of
It's
them.
just a matter of
Yeah,
how
yeah,
it's
yeah.
done.
Yeah,
and
he
whether-
was. Yeah, that's
whether
pretty classic. I don't want
we're
change
either
rhetoric coming out of Mo
pushed in
Bergman.
one direction or another. Mr. Chairman, through you, Mr. Trainer.
Mr. Trainer?
Can you describe to us what's the difference between signing the consent decree and not signing the consent decree?
Through the chair to the counselor, signing the consent decree effectively settles the suit. It brings it to a close, and then from there on out, it's implementing what's in the consent decree, in terms of the consent decree.
So once the consent decree is signed, the case is settled.
Almost, but for all intents and purposes.
We just have those
we go
three
through-
options to work with.
Pick
it's
one
gonna
and
be
then
of those
implement
three.
it, yes.
And then the plaintiffs are not mandated to, let's say, option whatever is chosen by the public and is overwhelming response, and the council says, let's go with this option. The plaintiffs aren't obligated to accept that option, are they?
Through the chair to the counselor, as drafted, the consent decree.
Guillermo, those were the
two
exact three I
options
was
in it,
thinking
Three
of.
options in it, whatever we put in the consent decree, once it's signed by us and them.
Calorio,
decision
Bergman, Toomey, and
choose
Candy Merrill Carlson.
From what's listed in the consent
Yes,
decree.
yeah.
Will be.
And Matt Wally doesn't like change, but
And once that
I mean
consent decree
coins
is
because it
signed,
gums up his gears.
do any of the councils have the authority to talk publicly about dissent and second thoughts about, gee, maybe we should have added a fifth option or a fourth option or whatever it may be?
Through the chair to the counselor, yes.
At what point are we gagged?
The consent decree provides that once an option is chosen, when it comes back for a vote to file the special legislation with the Brighton General Court, it needs to be a unanimous vote to show the legislature that it's fully supported by the community for the charge.
Again, please, through you, Mr. Chairman, at what point can we not, we cannot go against it?
Through
At
the
what
chair to the council, when it's time to vote to approve the special legislation and authorize its filing with the general court.
So even though the consent decree is signed, at that point, we could still have a discussion and people could still have.
Through the chair, let me clarify.
Because that's not the way I understood it from your
You
executive
can
session.
dissent up until the final vote to choose a system. Once a new system is chosen, once that vote is taken,
Okay.
we'll draft the special legislation to amend the charter. When that comes in for a vote to adopt the special legislation, have it filed with the legislature, at that vote, it's got to be a unanimous vote. No one can speak against what's been now chosen as the preferred final option.
Okay.
Final.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, if I may, to the city clerk. Mr. Clerk, recently you told me we have two majority minority districts, District 2 and District 4. You told me that the district that I'm proud to represent, District 3, is 47 or thereabouts. Is that correct, Mr. Clerk?
To the chair, to the council. So basically what you're referring to is the Census 2020 blocks for the city of Worcester as presented before the Board of Election Commissioners. So correct. At this point, when you include, the Asian population, we include the Hispanic population, Black population, as well as, I think, multiracial populations, District 2 and District 4 are over the 50% mark in terms of minority populations. And then District 3, I think, is a 47% minority, but it does not include the Hispanics alone and the Black population, but it includes all minority populations.
Well, I'm just trying to understand once and for all, and I really am trying to understand. What's the difference between the majority minority districts that you're referring to and the ones that the council is giving us for information back from the plaintiff? What is the difference, just so that I can understand it once again?
Through the chair. To the chair. The difference is in the lawsuit, there are two minority groups that are representing, they're politically cohesive. So you need to create a majority minority district to satisfy the plaintiff's claims that their vote is diluted.
So it's only black and
Hello?
Latinos, because only black and Latinos are plaintiffs in this case.
Correct.
And any other minorities, have you approached the plaintiff about representation of any other minority groups in
My
the city?
computer's cutting out.
Through the chair to the council, we did
We
suggest
hear
that
nothing.
we could use the council
Really? We can hear you fine.
districts because they were showing minority, majority minority, and they said no, that is not satisfactory. It's not their clients. It's their clients' interest that they're looking for. And as an aside, Professor Pursley told me that you don't resolve Section 2 violations by using all non-white voters.
So just because they're not their clients, they
But the second piece is the
They're not
professor said
interested in
that you don't resolve Section 2 claims using non-white population, like everyone is. You have to then show that they all
included in
vote
that everyone
cohesively.
for non-whites. I mean, I know Asians is a large number besides blacks and Latinos, but is there, I mean, like, what are the next groups? Does anyone know? I mean, who are we talking about for population that we're leaving out, basically?
I am having some
Through
difficulty.
the council, based on the census 2020 data we have for the city council districts, we have multiracial demographics that became part of the census 2020 data, and that number had, as part of the district,
All right.
basically district blocks for the 2020 data.
So you don't, all right, so we don't have that information handy, I take it. So, Mr. Chairman, through you to the city solicitor, who gets to draw the districts? You came into executive session, and I don't know if are those districts or maps that we were shown, are those part of what's in public purview now? Because those, are they?
Through the chair to the council, we're not submitting the maps at this point. Those were just drawn to show what the possibilities. Once a system is chosen, then the process will be undertaken publicly to choose and draw up the districts to reflect whatever the school committee electoral process ends up being.
Because, well, who makes the final decision through you, Mr. Chairman, on those maps when we come to it? No matter how many districts, we're going to have some districts. Who's going to get to draw those lines? Because I had major concerns of those ones that you had as drafts because they looked like hallways. They looked like, like stripes. It looked like almost like a New York Yankees uniform. And it didn't look like it, never mind, it wasn't like what the difference between our state rep districts and our city council districts were a few precincts or a few neighborhoods are added or subtracted. It's like completely different from top of the city to the bottom of the city in some cases.
Through the chair to the councilor, we will agree on an expert to come in and do the redistricting with the plaintiffs. We're hopeful that they will allow us to continue with Professor Pursley. He did the redistricting in Lowell. He does it all around the country. He's a court-ordered at times to come in and do redistricting. But we'll have to get to that place when we get, cross that bridge when we get to it.
Mr. Chairman, in closing, I just want to say I welcome these changes. I look forward to some changes coming forward at the end of the day. I think it's time for us to leave the back room, if you will, on executive session and get it into the community and get some input from the community. And I appreciate your willingness to separate the two issues.
This is
The one
thrilling
being,
stuff, Brian.
Sending it to committee for that discussion, which I'm sure Councilor King will.
That's my counselor right
leading
there.
that discussion in the committee and the actual signing of the decree. Thank you, Mr.
It's
Chairman.
against the rules for us.
Go ahead.
It's against the rules for us to feed him fish.
You can do whatever you want. No one runs against him.
I find that
here we go.
fascinating.
Oh
So
my
the
God, here we
biggest
go.
thing For me,
Get
what
that counter ready.
concerns me the most is, once again, I feel we're leaving the community out of this process.
Of course.
By time this goes to the committee,
Bill's going to kick
by
himself for
time
having to restart now.
we advertise these meetings, if we have 5 of them in every district, or if we have more than that, we have about 4 weeks to do this. This process and this change is way too important to fit into a 4-week window. And I'm very, very concerned that we are continually talking about on this council about public participation, public involvement, public
we want the public. We want to hear from the public. I don't think this is going to give us the time or the sense of where the community wants to go with this item. So, I mean, I was also one of the ones that did not vote for this to begin with Councilor Bergman. But my concern right now is when I listen to the time frame and I listen to my colleagues speak about when we did the charter change and how much time it took and how much we had committees involved and we had people engaged. This is what we should be doing with this. We should be engaging our community. We should be getting people from all different parts of the city to sit on a committee together and work together to come up with solutions. So this concerns me. I just think it's way too important to cram it into a 4-week period and have us be making this decision for the rest of the community. Thank you.
Donna, when have you ever actually represented the community?
Never, but I appreciate the brevity of the comments.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Just want to remind the public that we had 4 meetings, 4, on this particular item.
Yeah, in private, you bitch.
It's like a long time, but we've only had 4 meetings on this. For someone like me, I think that we absolutely should make these changes. I have no issue with that whatsoever. But I do have an issue with a thoughtful process. And we do talk about all the time on this council about transparency.
Is she against thoughtful process?
We talk about, we should make sure that the
She followed her
public's
career,
involved.
yes.
So those are some of the things that I think that we should absolutely have some public input here. I heard tonight 106,000 of our 206,000 people are minority. And I truly believe that number is a factual number. But that's
why the fuck wouldn't you?
bothers me the most about this is I think that everyone should be included in this. I think
Listen,
that
I believe that 3 times 3
the entire
is 9.
minority community.
I
and they
believe
should
that to be
have
true.
The same opportunities.
This
That's
is-
where I am with this. We've talked about.
Listen, I'm not like my brother. I'm not like my brother.
Every time
I
we
believe
have these
that those numbers
meetings,
are real.
a
He's
little,
talking about how there's so many illegals that are filling out 6 or 7 census forms.
And we talked about
But I
that
believe
those
it.
were the
I think
only
that
that we had. So for me, why are we going to have a community meeting if we only have those 3 options? If we can't change those, we heard that we wouldn't be the ones to draw the maps. So again, for somebody like me, who is going to draw those maps? I think that that's an extremely important question for us as a council to know who is going to draw those maps. I don't think that that should be a deal breaker. I think that, let's get together and put people in a room who's going to draw those maps for us.
I mean, is that not information that's available to her?
It's not about not.
She knows who's drawing the maps.
Do this. I think the questions really are.
We have an election commission.
So to Councilor
She knows that. She knows that.
We do this in the time we're boxed in to a time frame that, quite frankly, we know we just did ShotSpotter. How long did that take us to go out in the community and have all these meetings?
You didn't do shit with
to have
ShotSpotter.
those meetings. So how are we going to have these meetings in the community about this item here? So that's a question I have. Who answers that? Is that the solicitor?
Oh, this person makes me so tired.
Yeah, we're going to refer it to MO, and MO is going to have community meetings on it.
So as we talk about that we have 4 weeks, how do we do this in 4 weeks is my question. So we have currently right now, we have 3 options on the table. I really do believe that we should.
Yeah,
have
what
4
ShotSpotter
options
meetings
to
is
have
she
the
talking
ability
about?
to put other options on the table. And again, it's not about prohibiting us from doing what we should be doing. So
guys,
that's a question. How are we going to do this in 4 weeks? That's
I can
question
barely
one.
take this anymore.
Question number 2 is through you, Mr. Chairman, to the solicitor. My colleague, Mr. Russell, asked about, do we have opportunities to change any one of these 3 options?
Through the chair to the counselor, not once they're embedded in the consent decree. And I will repeat, I don't know what other options there are available other than ranked choice voting.
But we don't, so through the chair to the solicitor, we don't know that. We don't know if other folks in the community, because they haven't been invited, they haven't been given the opportunity to share maybe
Oh,
what
now
their
you
thoughts
want
are.
to hear
And I just think that
the
by
voices of the
locking ourselves
voiceless.
into those just 3, and nobody has, I mean, then why are we having community meetings if there's no room for more options? That's my next question.
Great question.
Why are we just not doing this? Why are we, if we have 3 options?
You know when
and we can't
One Flew Over the
change
Cuckoo's
those,
Nest,
and there's no
where
other
that old guy
viable
interrupts the
options,
meeting,
then
he just goes, "I'm tired.
why are we having these meetings?
I'm tired."
The chair of the counselor, the
Should go down to City Hall
council
and do
can
that
put
right
the
now.
3 options there.
I would
Consent
actually
decree
do
is one
that.
of them.
It's just personally I go, "I'm tired."
Consent decree. That's at the will of the council.
Because
So
fucking
you're saying through the chair to the solicitor, so we're back
yeah.
to what you're saying.
It's crazy.
is
They
you
do
have
the
those
things
3
that
options,
we need to
and
see
those are the
in
3
private,
options that
and then
we're
they do the
going to
things
bring
that
to
can be
the
private
community,
in front
and
of our
they
fucking
can
faces for
have,
3 hours on a
Yes.
they
Tuesday.
say on pick 1,
They have
2,
the
or
real conversations
Through the
in
chair, that's
private.
one of the options.
And then
there.
they just
One of the
proselytize in front of us for
It's,
3
what the
hours,
council can do,
whether
yes.
it be like talking about like
colleague,
equality,
Mr. Russell asked a question.
like Rivera
a minute
did, or
ago,
this, where she's
and
just
he asked
asking
a question if we could
questions
make
that
changes,
she knows the answer
and the
to
response was,
just
yes, we
like
could make
bore and ignore us.
No, the question was, could you speak against it? And it's yes. You don't have to have a unanimous vote to choose whatever the electoral system is going to be. But we're not going to change the options. The options are the options once they go into a consent decree. And the only other options.
All right, I
we've
have
been able
to actually
look at is the ranked choice or creating more
leave the
districts.
stream. I gotta go. And it's not because I'm getting so frustrated, but it's because somebody at my other job did something really stupid, and I have to go
the question
over there
next
and deal with
question I
that.
have is, we don't know.
Yeah,
as
let's
we sit here
let's
tonight, we have
let's
this long
let's
let's
call
mute
it here
on,
for now.
Let's mute it. Let's mute it for a second
precincts.
for anybody still tuning in. If we can do that, yeah, this is really fun. I love doing this,
This is great.
and
Yeah.
I think that we had really good participation in the comments, and I think that this is something that we should do regularly, because it is interesting to bring people into the actual act of watching a meeting and see how frustrating, hard to follow, inane, and often racist these meetings are. So, like, I think it's a really good thing to see, and I really enjoyed this. I would stick around for the whole rest of the meeting, even though I'm sweaty from being mad right now. And I'm definitely going to write about this in some way soon, because this whole thing was very.
This was a crazy. This was actually an insane meeting for us to
This
be
was
kind of
this
doing
was
this during.
yeah, this was a nuts one.
Yeah.
I have to go to the place that I work at right now
Yeah.
because I got inconvenienced by somebody. And
Travis, can you drop the link to the meeting itself in the chat for people? You guys should continue watching it. We're gonna drop off, but obviously pay attention to what's going on. Yeah, let's make this, or we'll come back next week. I'm sure there's gonna be fallout from tonight happening next week. And
yeah, and tonight there were obviously there weren't going to be any like huge groundbreaking decisions made tonight. It was interesting to see the way that the councilors talked about it, especially Mo Bergman. especially Mo Bergman. And expect more on this soon. And yeah, Brian, this is a lot of fun. And Shaun, when he was tuning in, and Travis.
Yeah,
for
Shaun will
pointing
be
it
here
out.
next week. He had something going on. But
Yeah.
we'll all three be here next week, and we'll hear hopefully more about bollards. I think
Yeah,
that's what
right,
we all are hoping that we could do.
We love our bollards, folks.
Yeah,
We
but
love
for
them.
now,
We love our
you know, follow this Twitch channel if you like. Follow Bill on social media. Obviously, subscribe to Worcester Sucks, and I love it. Please do that. It's an amazing publication. It's really the only place that you're going to hear about things like this when you're not here on Twitch. So thank you guys so much for being engaged, being tuned in. We had, we've had at least 14 people the entire time. This is, so this has been a really fun time. And yeah, check it out. Check us out on social media. Follow when we're going to be on. But just be here next week at 6:30. We'll be back on.
Yes, we will. All right. Thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Travis. We'll see you guys next time.